Have you ever tried to hold water in a clenched fist? The harder you squeeze, the more desperately you strain your muscles, the faster the water escapes through the crevices between your fingers, leaving you with nothing but a damp, empty palm and the feeling of failure. This is the quiet paradox of our lives. This is the story of our frantic pursuit of happiness, our relentless chase for peace, our desperate grasp for a success that always seems to be just beyond our reach. We have been taught to run faster, to push harder, to tighten our grip on the outcomes we crave, and yet they seem to slip further and further away, leaving us breathless on a treadmill of our own making, exhausted in a world that never stops demanding more. We are tired, a deep, soul-level weariness that comes not from a lack of effort, but from the constant, draining application of force against the natural current of our own lives. We have been told that to want something is to fight for it, to control it, to wrestle it into submission. And so we fight, we control, we wrestle, and we are left with aching hands and an empty heart. But what if the fundamental premise is wrong? What if the strength we have been taught to admire is, in fact, a form of weakness? What if the greatest power is not found in the tightening grip, but in the courageous, deliberate act of opening the hand? I invite you now to step away from that noise, to leave the battlefield of constant striving, and to enter a different kind of space with me. A quiet space, a space of observation, of acceptance, a space where we will not learn to try harder, but to surrender smarter. This is not a journey of adding more strategies, more techniques, more hustle. It is a journey of unlearning, of undoing the knots we have tied within ourselves. We are here to explore a profound and simple law of the inner universe, the law which whispers that some doors only open when you stop pushing against them. The journey to reclaim your inner peace, your authentic power, does not begin with another frantic step forward, but with a moment of profound, intentional stillness. It begins right here, in the quiet recognition that the way you have been trying is the very thing that has been holding you back. We begin with the hand, the fist we spoke of earlier, clenched so tightly around the water of life. Let us now look closer, not at the water that escapes, but at the fist itself. Why does it clench so instinctively? What command from deep within our being orders the fingers to fold, the muscles to tighten, the knuckles to turn white? The command is not born of aggression, not truly. It is born of fear. It is the oldest, most primal reaction to a universe that feels vast, chaotic, and utterly indifferent to our desires. The clenched fist is a shield, a desperate, self-made fortress against the terrifying expanse of the unknown. We fear the void of tomorrow, the uncertainty of the next hour, the potential for loss, for failure, for pain, and so we clench. We believe, in the deepest parts of our programming, that if we can just hold on tight enough, we can create a small pocket of certainty in a world of maybes. We attempt to forge a reality of our own making, a reality that conforms to our blueprint, that follows our script. This is the great and tragic illusion of control. It is a trap, baited with the promise of safety. The mind, in its magnificent but limited capacity, designs a map of how our career should progress, how our relationships should unfold, how our feelings should behave. We draw the lines, we name the destinations, we calculate the arrival times, and then we spend the entirety of our life's energy trying to force the wild, untamable territory of existence to conform to the neat little lines on our paper map. When a relationship takes an unexpected turn, the fist clenches. When a project fails to meet our perfect vision, the fist clenches. When a wave of sadness appears on a day we have designated for happiness, the fist clenches. Each clench is an act of war against what is. It is a declaration that says, "My idea of reality is better than reality itself." And in this war, there is only one possible outcome: exhaustion. We are trying to bend the iron of the universe with our bare hands. We are whispering commands to the tide and expecting it to obey. We are building our house of certainty on the shifting sands of time, and then we are bewildered when the walls begin to crack. This internal conflict is the source of the hum of anxiety that underscores modern life. It is the tension you feel in your shoulders as you try to manage the perceptions of others. It is the tightness in your chest as you replay a past mistake, trying to retroactively control its outcome. It is the frantic mental gymnastics of planning for every possible negative contingency, a process that forces you to live in 1,000 imaginary, painful futures before a single one has even arrived. You have become the self-appointed manager of the universe, a universe that has no need for a manager. Your soul craves flow, the effortless glide of a bird on the wind, but your mind, the fearful architect, insists on building a cage of expectations and trying to force the bird of life to sing inside it. The tragedy is that we do this out of a desire for peace. We believe that once everything is in its proper place, once every variable is accounted for and every outcome is secured, then, finally, we will be able to relax. We will be able to unclench the fist. But that day never comes, because the nature of life is change. The nature of other people is freedom. The nature of our own heart is a wild and unpredictable rhythm. To demand certainty is to demand that life stop being life. Here, in this quiet space, we must introduce a new understanding. The core message, the ray of light that cuts through this darkness, is this: true control is not the ability to dictate outcomes. It is the ability to master your response to all outcomes. True power is not found in rigidity, but in flexibility. It is not the power of the mighty oak tree, which stands proud and unbending until the great storm comes and shatters it to pieces. It is the power of the humble reed, which bends with the wind, which yields to the force of the water, and which, when the storm has passed, stands tall once more. The reed's strength is in its surrender. It does not fight the wind, it dances with it. This is the shift we are seeking, to move from fighting reality to dancing with it, to realize that the only territory you can ever truly govern is the territory of your own inner state. The world will do what it will do. People will be who they will be. The rain will fall and the sun will shine, according to a logic far older and wiser than our own. Your power, your real power, lies in choosing your response. Do you curse the rain, or do you learn to find beauty in the reflection of the sky in a puddle? Do you break yourself against the will of another, or do you find the wisdom to walk away, or to accept them as they are? This is the seat of true control. It is internal, it is unshakable, and it is entirely, completely within your grasp. So how do we begin to practice this? How do we retrain a lifetime of instinctive clenching? We begin with the body. We begin with the hand itself. Right now, I invite you to perform a small ritual. Clench your right fist. Squeeze it. Feel the tension radiate up your arm. Feel the pressure in your knuckles, the strain in your wrist. Acknowledge this feeling. This is the energy of forceful control. It is familiar. It is the state in which you may live most of your waking hours. Hold it for a moment longer. Now, very slowly, deliberately, begin to open your hand, finger by finger. Feel the release of tension. Feel the blood returning to your fingertips. Open it completely until your palm faces the sky. This is the posture of release, the posture of acceptance. Now, imagine placing one of your primary worries into the center of this open palm. It could be a fear about work, a concern about a relationship, a stress about money. See it there, resting in your hand. You are not pushing it away. You are not clinging to it. You are simply holding it, observing it, allowing it to be what it is. Feel its weight. Notice its texture, its shape, its temperature in your mind's eye. And now, imagine a gentle breeze blowing across your palm, and the worry, like a single grain of sand, is lifted and carried away by the wind. You do not throw it, you simply allow it to be taken. This is the practice of the open hand. It is a practice of non-attachment. The second practice is the focus on a single, concrete action. The controlling mind is always lost in the vast, abstract future. It is overwhelmed by the 10 steps it must take tomorrow. Your task is to bring it back to the one step you can take right now. If you have a great project to complete, do not focus on the finished masterpiece. Focus on cleaning your workspace. Focus on writing a single, simple sentence. Focus on the feeling of your feet on the floor as you walk to get a glass of water. Devote your entire attention to that one small, manageable act without any attachment to where it will lead. In that single act, you are entirely present. You are not fighting the future. You are not wrestling with the past. You are simply being, here, now, engaged in a simple dance with reality. This is how you reclaim your energy. You starve the anxious mind by rooting yourself in the tangible present. The image to hold is that of a kite. Your dreams, your aspirations, they are the kite. Your will, your action, is the string. If you hold the string with a clenched, unyielding fist, the kite cannot climb. It is choked, held too close to the ground, unable to catch the currents of the air. If you let go of the string completely, in an act of apathetic resignation, the kite is lost to the wind forever. The art of living, the art of this new control, is to learn how to hold the string. It is to feel the pull of the wind, to give slack when the kite needs to soar, to reel it in gently when the wind dies down. It is a responsive, dynamic, intelligent relationship. You are not commanding the wind. You are using your wisdom and sensitivity to partner with it, to allow your kite to fly higher than you could ever have forced it to go. Your hand is not clenched, nor is it empty. It is alive, responsive, and engaged in a beautiful, effortless dance. This is the power we are here to discover, the power of the open hand. Let us take the principle of the open hand and carry it from the light of day into the deep silence of the night. For there is no more intimate, no more frustrating, and no more perfect demonstration of the law of reversed effort than in the simple nightly act of trying to fall asleep. The house is quiet. The world outside has softened its edges. The body, a faithful servant, aches for restoration. All the conditions for peace seem to be present, and yet, for so many of us, the bedroom becomes a theater of war, the pillow a rack of torture. You lie in the darkness, exhausted but intensely, painfully awake. Your mind, which you have relied upon all day to solve, to plan, and to achieve, suddenly becomes your enemy. It races, it calculates, it worries, it demands. And the one thing it demands, sleep, is the one thing its very activity prevents. This is the paradox in its purest form. The harder you try to find the switch that turns off your mind, the brighter the lights of consciousness seem to burn. What is happening in this nightly struggle? You are applying the rules of the daytime world to the mystical kingdom of the night. The daytime world rewards effort, planning, and direct action. The kingdom of sleep operates under an entirely different jurisdiction. Sleep is not a task to be completed. It is not a goal to be achieved. It is a state of being to be entered, and the only key that fits the lock is surrender. The very act of trying to sleep is a declaration of mistrust. It is the ego, the daytime manager, refusing to sign off for the night. It wants to oversee the process. It splits the mind into two warring factions. There is the performer, the part of you that is supposed to fall asleep, and there is the watcher, the anxious, impatient supervisor standing over the performer's shoulder, clipboard in hand. "Are you asleep yet?" the watcher whispers. "It's been 10 minutes. You should be asleep by now. If you don't sleep soon, you'll be useless tomorrow." This internal surveillance is the very definition of anxiety. It creates a performance pressure around an act that cannot be performed. You cannot do sleep. Sleep is what happens when you cease all doing. It is the ultimate act of letting go, of trusting that the universe will carry on for a few hours without your conscious supervision. The desire to force sleep is the desire to control the uncontrollable, the final frontier of the clenched fist. Listen to the internal monologue of the sleepless. It is a frantic storm of calculation and fear. It is now 1 in the morning. If I fall asleep this very second, I will get 6 hours. That's acceptable. 15 minutes pass. Okay, 1:15. 5 hours and 45 minutes. I can still function on that. Another 30 minutes. The voice becomes more strained. 1:45. This is a disaster. Tomorrow is ruined. I am failing at the most basic human function. Frustration builds. A hot, prickly anger at your own brain. You try a new tactic. Force. You squeeze your eyes shut. You command your brain, stop thinking, which is, of course, a thought in itself, and one that only generates more thoughts in defiance. The body, meanwhile, lies in a state of profound conflict. It craves the deep, restorative peace of oblivion, but the mind's frantic alarm bells are sending signals of emergency throughout your nervous system, keeping every muscle fiber on high alert. The body wants to sink into the mattress, but the mind is braced for impact. This is the war, the body's plea for surrender versus the mind's terror of it. Here, we must perform the same radical shift in perspective as we did with the open hand. We must change the goal. The core message, the gentle lullaby that can quiet this internal storm, is this. Sleep is not an objective to be conquered. It is a guest to be invited. You cannot command a guest to arrive. You can only prepare a welcoming space. You tidy the room, you quiet the house, you create an atmosphere of peace, and then you wait, patiently and without demand. The guest may arrive, or it may not, but your job is simply to be a good host to the present moment. Therefore, your goal in the darkness is not to fall asleep. Your new goal, your only goal, is to allow the body to rest. This is a revolutionary shift. Resting is something you can allow. Sleep is something that happens. By focusing on rest, you release the pressure of performance. You can succeed at resting right now, even if you are wide awake. And how do we practice this? We begin by changing our language and our intention. As you lie in the darkness, release the words, "I need to sleep." Let them dissolve. Replace them with a softer, more generous intention. I am allowing my body to rest now. My only job is to be still. You have already succeeded. Feel that small release of pressure. You are no longer failing at sleeping. You are succeeding at resting. Next, you must draw your attention out of the noisy, chaotic boardroom of your mind and into the quiet, simple truth of your body. Anchor your awareness in physical sensation. Feel the weight of your head on the pillow. Is it heavy or light? Feel the texture of the blankets against your skin. Are they soft or coarse? Notice the air in the room. Is it cool or warm on your face? Do not judge these sensations, simply notice them. They are the reality of the present moment. And most powerfully, bring your awareness to your breath. Feel the gentle, automatic rise of your abdomen as you breathe in and the slow, easy fall as you breathe out. Do not try to change your breathing. Do not force it to be deeper or slower. Simply observe it. It is the rhythm of life, a quiet anchor in the stormy sea of your thoughts. Each time the mind pulls you back into a story about tomorrow or a regret about yesterday, gently, without judgment, guide your attention back to the simple physical reality of your breath. This is not a trick to force sleep. This is the act of resting itself. You are giving your mind a simple, calming task to do, which allows the deeper mechanisms of sleep to engage when they are ready. And then there is a final, Even more paradoxical practice, welcome the wakefulness. Instead of fighting it, instead of seeing it as an enemy, greet it with a calm neutrality. Ah, wakefulness is here, you might say to yourself. I will be with this state for a while. By ceasing the fight, you rob the anxiety of its fuel. The tension in your body is not caused by wakefulness itself. It is caused by your resistance to it. When you stop resisting, when you accept what is, even if what is a racing mind at 3 in the morning, a strange kind of peace can descend. You are no longer at war. You are simply lying in the dark, resting, breathing. You have created the welcoming space. You have quieted the house. Imagine that sleep is a vast, deep, silent lake at midnight, its surface a perfect mirror for the stars. Every time you think, I must sleep, you have thrown a small stone into that lake. A ripple of effort spreads across the surface, distorting the reflection. You become frustrated, and you throw another, larger stone of anger. The ripples multiply. You become anxious about tomorrow, and you throw a handful of gravel, shattering the starlight into a chaotic mess. The harder you try to calm the water, the more you disturb it. The path to the lake's stillness is to put down the stones. It is to sit quietly on the shore of your bed, to stop trying to do anything to the water, and to simply be with it. To watch the ripples of your own making gradually, in their own time, subside. And as you sit in this state of patient, non-judgmental rest, you may find that the line between you and the lake begins to blur, and you merge, without effort and without noticing, into its deep, silent, and starry peace. We have explored the clenched fist of control and the nightly battle for sleep, and now we arrive at the grandest, most celebrated paradox of all, the pursuit of happiness. From the whispers of our own hearts to the thunderous declarations of our cultures, we are told that this pursuit is our ultimate purpose. It is the prize at the end of the race, the treasure buried at the spot, marked X on the map of our lives. We organize our existence around this hunt. We choose careers, partners, and homes based on their perceived potential to yield this precious resource. We endure the mundane. We tolerate the difficult, all with the promise that one day, when the conditions are just right, happiness will finally be ours. And so we become relentless hunters, forever scanning the horizon for a glimpse of our quarry, forever convinced it is just over the next hill, just beyond the next achievement. But the longer we hunt, the more a strange and unsettling truth begins to dawn. The more desperately we chase happiness, the more skillfully it seems to elude us. The fundamental error is one of geography. We have been taught that happiness is a destination. It is a place on the map called when. I will be happy when I get the promotion. I will be happy when I lose the weight. I will be happy when I find love. I will be happy when I am financially secure. I will be happy when I am finally recognized and validated. By this simple, insidious trick of the mind, we exile our own well-being to an ever-receding future. We treat the present moment, the only moment we ever truly have, as nothing more than a shabby waiting room, a stepping stone to a better place that never quite arrives. We live our lives in a perpetual state of not yet. When we finally achieve the goal, when we arrive at the destination we were so sure held the key, there is a brief flicker of triumph, a momentary rush of pleasure, but it is fleeting. The promotion comes with more responsibility and new anxieties. The new house comes with a mortgage and endless repairs. The hedonic treadmill, as it is sometimes called, ensures that our baseline of contentment remains stubbornly the same. And so, almost immediately, the mind identifies a new when, a new destination further down the road, and the hunt begins all over again. The chase itself becomes the substance of our lives, a frantic, breathless marathon with no finish line. This is the tyranny of the external. We have outsourced the responsibility for our own inner state to people, objects, and circumstances that are, by their very nature, impermanent and fundamentally outside of our control. We have given the keys to our own joy to the world, and then we are shocked and hurt when the world misplaces them. To stake your happiness on the opinion of others is to build your house on the shifting sands of their moods. To stake it on material possessions is to tie your well-being to things that can be lost, broken, or stolen. To stake it on a specific outcome is to live in constant, low-grade anxiety, because the universe is under no obligation to follow our meticulously crafted scripts. This entire strategy, the strategy of getting happiness, is what creates the very feeling of lack it is designed to eliminate. The constant striving reinforces the belief that you are not whole right now. The constant searching confirms that something is missing. The pursuit of happiness is the most effective way to guarantee you will always feel that it is absent. The conflict, then, is between the soul's deep and simple yearning for contentment and the mind's loud, complex, and ultimately flawed strategy for acquiring it. Your essence does not crave a bigger title or a faster car. It craves meaning, it craves connection, it craves presence. It craves the simple, profound peace of being fully alive in this moment. The mind, conditioned by a world of goals and achievements, dismisses this simple peace as insufficient. It tells you that you need more, that you deserve more. It sends you on 1,000 external errands, while the treasure you seek lies buried and untouched in your own backyard. Here, we pivot, we lay down our weapons, we call off the hunt. The great secret, the core message that unties this knot, is this: happiness is not a thing to be pursued, it is a thing that ensues. It is a byproduct. It is the fragrance that rises from a life lived with purpose and presence. It is the warmth that radiates from a heart filled with gratitude. You cannot chase a fragrance. You cannot hunt a warmth. You can only cultivate the flower from which the fragrance emerges. You can only build the fire that radiates the warmth. The direct pursuit is doomed to fail. The indirect cultivation is the only path that leads home. Therefore, we must learn to ask different questions. We must consciously abandon the flawed, frustrating question, "What can I get that will make me happy?" and replace it with deeper, richer inquiries. Instead, ask yourself, what is truly meaningful to me right now, in this moment? The answer may be small. It might be to prepare a meal with care. It might be to listen, truly listen, to a friend. It might be to create something, anything, without judgment. A sentence, a sketch, order out of chaos on your desk. Ask yourself, how can I be of service? This shifts the focus from the empty bucket of your own needs to the full well of your capacity to give. Even the smallest act of kindness, a smile to a stranger, a word of encouragement, is an act of planting meaning. Ask yourself, where can I find and create connection with another person, with nature, with your own body? These questions point you not toward a future destination, but toward the quality of your being in the immediate present. They guide you to cultivate your garden, and a vital tool for this cultivation is the practice of gratitude. Not a saccharine, performative gratitude, but a fierce, attentive, and radical gratitude. It is the practice of seeing. It is the deliberate act of noticing the profound abundance that already exists in your life, an abundance the hunting mind is trained to ignore. As you sit here, can you feel a gratitude for the simple, miraculous fact of your breath, which has arrived without your effort every moment of your life? Can you feel a gratitude for the chair that supports you, an object born from a tree and the labor of unseen hands? Can you notice the magic of light entering your eyes, allowing you to see these words? Gratitude is the practice of shifting your focus from the one thing that is missing to the 1,000 things that are present. It is the fastest way to feel wealthy. It costs nothing. It is available to you at all times. This practice does not deny pain or difficulty, but it creates a foundation of inner richness so that when hardship comes, it does not consume you. It reminds you that even on the darkest day, there are still reasons to feel a quiet, humble sense of wonder. So we end with the image of the butterfly. Happiness is a beautiful, iridescent butterfly. The child in us sees it and immediately wants to possess it. We lunge for it, our net of desire held high. The butterfly, startled, flits and darts away. We chase it, crashing through the flowers, our eyes fixed on the prize. We run ourselves ragged, breathless and sweating, only to watch the butterfly soar high over a fence and disappear. We are left exhausted, frustrated, and empty-handed in a trampled field. This is the direct pursuit. But the wise path is to abandon the chase. It is to turn your attention back to your own small patch of earth. You stop looking for the butterfly and you start tending your garden. You pull the bitter weeds of resentment. You dig the soil of your own character. You plant the seeds of meaningful action. You water them with the daily practice of presence and gratitude. You become absorbed in the work itself, the work of living, the work of being. And then one quiet afternoon, as the sun warms your back and you are lost in the simple, fulfilling task at hand, you feel a delicate, almost imperceptible lightness on your shoulder. You turn your head slowly, and there it is. The butterfly, in all its beauty, has come to you. It has landed, unbidden, drawn by the life and the fragrance of the garden you have so lovingly tended. You do not need to catch it. You do not need to own it. You simply need to be with it. This is how happiness arrives, not as a trophy of a frantic hunt, but as a quiet visitor to a home that has been made ready. From the universal quest for happiness, we now turn inward to a more private, yet equally fraught human endeavor, the act of creation. We arrive at the edge of the blank page, the silent instrument, the untouched canvas. This is not merely an empty space. It is a sacred void, a field of pure, shimmering potential. Anything can happen here. A universe can be born from a single word. A world of emotion can bloom from a single brushstroke. But this very infinity, this promise of boundless freedom, is often what terrifies us the most. The blank page transforms from a field of possibility into a stark white mirror, reflecting our greatest ambitions and our deepest insecurities. It becomes a courtroom, and we, the creators, are suddenly on trial. The charge is mediocrity, the potential sentence is failure, and so, before we have even made a single mark, the hand begins to clench. The creative impulse, one of the most natural and joyful expressions of the human spirit, becomes strangled by the pressure to be brilliant. To understand this paralysis, we must recognize that we are not one mind, but two. When we approach a creative act, we bring both the playful child and the stern judge into the room. The playful child is the source of all true creation. This is the part of you that is endlessly curious, that sees the world with fresh eyes, that loves to make a mess just to see what happens. The child is not concerned with outcomes. It is fascinated by the process itself. It delights in the feel of paint, the sound of words bumping against each other, the surprising harmony that emerges from random chords. It operates in a state of flow, a timeless dance where the self is forgotten and only the act of making remains. It is this playful energy that connects disparate ideas, that follows hunches, that takes wild, intuitive leaps into the unknown. The child is not afraid to be wrong, because it doesn't even operate in the categories of right and wrong. It only knows the joy of expression. But standing directly behind this child, perpetually looking over its shoulder, is the stern judge. The judge is the voice of our accumulated fears. It is the echo of every critical teacher, every dismissive comment, every past project that didn't live up to our hopes. The judge's prime directive is to protect us from the shame of failure, and the pain of ridicule. It is an internal censor, armed with a heavy red pen. As the child reaches for a color, the judge whispers, "That's cliché. It's been done 1,000 times." As the child writes a line of poetry, the judge scoffs, "That's sentimental nonsense. People will think you're a fool." The judge demands a masterpiece from the very first stroke. It wants a final, polished product without the messy, uncertain, and often disappointing process of getting there. The harder you try to impress the judge, the more you feed its power. In your desperate attempt to create something good, you activate the very mechanism that ensures you will create nothing at all. The playful child, under the cold, relentless gaze of the judge, becomes frozen, terrified to make a move that might be deemed imperfect. This is the agony of the blank page. It is not an emptiness of ideas. The mind of the blocked creator is often deafeningly loud. It is buzzing with the judge's relentless chorus of critiques, comparisons, and catastrophic predictions. The internal conflict is a perfect, agonizing stalemate. On one side, there is the soul's profound, burning desire to give form to a feeling, to tell a story, to bring something new into the world. On the other side is a paralyzing terror that what you create will be a testament to your own inadequacy. It is the passionate artist chained to the anxious perfectionist. This inner war is the true source of procrastination. We do not avoid the work because we are lazy. We avoid it because it has become a place of profound psychological risk. It feels safer to do nothing than to create something that confirms our deepest fears about ourselves. And so the canvas remains white. The novel remains unwritten. The song remains unsung, not for lack of talent, but because the creator is being held hostage by the demand for a guaranteed success. The escape from this prison is, of course, a paradox. The key to unlocking your creative flow is to abandon the goal of being good. The core message, the liberating gospel for every struggling artist, is this: you must give yourself unconditional, radical permission to be bad. You must ceremonially, intentionally divorce the act of creation from the need for approval, even your own. The goal is not to produce a masterpiece. The goal is to show up, to engage, to make a mark. The true work of the artist is not performance, it is discovery. You are an explorer setting out into an unknown territory. You do not know what you will find. There may be deserts and swamps. There may be dead ends. These are not failures. They are simply parts of the map you are creating. To demand a beautiful vista around every corner is to misunderstand the nature of exploration. You must embrace the role of the curious scientist, whose failed experiments are just as valuable as the successful ones, for they all provide information. How then do we put this into practice? How do we disarm the stern judge and coax the playful child back into the room? We start by lowering the stakes to the point of absurdity. If your goal is to write a novel, the judge will be there in full force. But if your goal is simply to write one single true sentence today, the task is so small, so humble, that the judge might not even notice. It is too insignificant to critique. The goal is not to paint a masterpiece, but to make one interesting blue line on a piece of paper. This practice of setting microscopic goals bypasses the perfectionist trap and allows you to simply begin, which is always the hardest part. Next, you must practice the art of the sacred dump. This is the discipline of free writing, of morning pages, of automatic drawing. Set a timer for 10 minutes. The only rule is that your hand must keep moving. Write whatever comes into your head. Write, "I have nothing to say," over and over again. Write about the color of the wall, the sound of the traffic, your own frustration. Draw scribbles, make ugly shapes. The purpose here is not to create anything of value. The purpose is to build a pipeline between your subconscious and the page that bypasses the judge. You are proving to yourself that you can produce without censoring. 99% of what you create in these sessions will be worthless. But in that remaining 1%, you will find unexpected images, surprising phrases, the raw, unpolished germs of new ideas. You are clearing the throat of your creative voice. Finally, you must learn to embrace the fertile void of boredom. Our modern world trains us to flee from any moment of unoccupied time. We fill every gap with distraction, but boredom is the soil in which the seeds of creativity sprout. When the mind is not being fed a constant stream of external information, it begins to feed on itself. It makes new connections. It starts to play. Schedule time to do nothing. Go for a walk without headphones. Stare out a window. Allow your mind to wander aimlessly. It is in these quiet, unstructured moments that the playful child feels safe enough to emerge and whisper its strange and wonderful ideas. Imagine that deep within you, there is a natural spring. It is the source of your unique, creative energy. It bubbles up ceaselessly, effortlessly, with its own particular rhythm and flow. This is your birthright. But over the years, through fear and conditioning, we have dragged a great, heavy boulder and placed it directly over the mouth of this spring. This is the boulder of perfectionism. The harder we try to be creative, the more we push down on this boulder, trying to squeeze the water out through sheer force of will. This, of course, only seals the spring more tightly. The path of the wise creator is to stop pushing on the boulder. It is to turn your attention to the boulder itself. The practice of lowering the stakes, of embracing the worthless, of celebrating the process over the product, these are the levers you use to slowly, patiently nudge the boulder aside. Each time you allow yourself to write a bad sentence or draw a meaningful line, you shift its weight just a little. And as the boulder moves, the water begins to trickle out. Then it flows. Your work is not to create the water. The water was always there. Your only work is to clear the path. We have walked through the territories of control, of sleep, of happiness, and of creation. Now we must step onto the most sacred and often the most perilous ground of all, the landscape of love. Love is the great animating force of our existence, the sun around which our personal worlds orbit. It is the experience that promises the deepest connection, the most profound meaning. Yet, it is also the arena where our oldest wounds, our deepest insecurities, and our most primal fears play out with devastating intensity. It is here, in our most intimate connections, that the law of reversed effort enacts its most painful and poignant paradox. For it is a fundamental truth of the human heart that the more desperately we cling to love, the more surely we push it away. The act of trying to secure love, to cage it, to possess it, is the very act that suffocates and ultimately destroys it. To understand this, we must first make a crucial distinction between two forces that look alike, feel alike, and are spoken of with the same words, but are in truth worlds apart. We must distinguish between love and its shadow, attachment. Attachment is the clenched fist. It is born not from a place of fullness, but from a place of fear and lack. It is the voice of the hungry ghost within us that whispers, "I need you to be whole. I need your presence to validate my existence. I need your love to fill the emptiness inside of me." Attachment views the other person not as a sovereign being, but as a source, a utility, a solution to an internal problem. From this root of fear grows the toxic foliage of jealousy, possessiveness, and control. Jealousy is the terror that your source will be taken away by another. Possessiveness is the deluded belief that you have a right to that source. The constant need for reassurance is the symptom of the perpetually empty cup, always needing to be refilled from the outside. This is not love. It is a hunger that wears the mask of love. It is a strategy for survival, a desperate attempt to lock down an external supply of the validation and security we have failed to cultivate within ourselves. Love, true love, is the open hand. It is not born of lack, but radiates from a place of inner abundance. Love says, "My life is already whole, and your presence in it is a wondrous, beautiful addition. I do not need you, but I choose you, and I delight in you." Love is not about getting, it is about giving. But it is a giving that does not deplete, because it flows from a well that is eternally spring-fed from within. From this root of trust and wholeness grows a completely different kind of foliage: generosity, freedom, and encouragement. True love finds joy in the other person's happiness, even when it doesn't directly involve us. It celebrates their successes, it honors their freedom, and encourages their individual growth. It is expansive, not contractive. It seeks to liberate, not to cage. The fundamental difference is this: attachment is about using another person to quiet your own fears. Love is about creating a space where another person feels safe enough to be their authentic self. Now, look at the internal conflict this creates. The person who clings does so out of a profound and genuine desire for connection. The craving is real, but the strategy is flawed. Their actions, born of fear, broadcast a message of profound mistrust. Checking a partner's phone is not an act of love. It is an act of suspicion. Demanding to know their whereabouts at all times is not an act of caring. It is an act of surveillance. Guilt-tripping them for wanting to spend time with their own friends is not an act of intimacy. It is an act of isolation. For the person clinging, life becomes a torment of constant vigilance, interpreting every silence as a sign of rejection, every moment of separateness as a threat of abandonment. Their desperate attempt to feel safe creates a life of perpetual anxiety. For the person being clung to, the experience is one of slow suffocation. The embrace that once felt loving now feels like a cage. The attention that once felt flattering now feels like a burden. They are tasked with the impossible job of being another person's entire world, a weight no single human is meant to bear. The natural, instinctual response to being caged, to being suffocated, is to seek air, to seek freedom, to pull away. And so, the clinging hand, in its desperate attempt to hold on, creates the very abandonment it fears most. The prophecy of fear is tragically self-fulfilled. The only way out of this painful loop is through a radical reorientation. The core message, the liberating truth, is this: your primary responsibility in a relationship is not to manage your partner, but to diligently, lovingly, and relentlessly tend to the garden of your own soul. You must become the source of your own validation. You must learn to fill your own cup. An empty, thirsty person will always seek to drain others, but a person whose own well is full has an abundance of water to share without demand or expectation. A person who has cultivated a rich inner life, who has their own passions, their own friendships, their own sense of purpose, is not a burden. They are a destination. They are magnetic. They are interesting. They have something to offer. The most attractive quality in a partner is not neediness, but wholeness. How do we practice this sovereign love? First, you must consciously commit to becoming the primary caretaker of your own happiness. This is not selfish. It is the greatest gift you can give to your partner. Find what lights you up, independent of them. Reconnect with old friends. Start a new hobby. Find meaning in work or service. Go to the metaphorical well of your own being for a drink, instead of constantly asking your partner to carry a bucket for you. When you are both fulfilled from within, you come together, not out of desperate need, but out of joyful choice. Second, you must practice the art of giving space. This is an act of profound trust. Encourage your partner to have their own life, their own friends, their own experiences. Trust that your connection is strong enough to withstand separateness. True intimacy is not the annihilation of the space between two people. It is the quality of connection that exists across that sacred space. Trust is the oxygen that love needs to breathe. Without it, it chokes. Finally, replace the act of demanding reassurance with the practice of deep listening. Instead of asking, "Do you love me?" in a moment of insecurity, try asking, "What is on your mind?" Create a space where they can be honest without fear of your reaction. One is an act of taking to soothe your own anxiety. The other is a profound act of giving, an offering of your peaceful, non-judgmental presence. Let us close with the image of two trees. A relationship built on attachment and fear is like two young, weak saplings that have been tied together. They lean on each other for support, so neither one ever develops a strong trunk or a deep root system of its own. They are entangled, codependent. From a distance, they might look like one tree, but because they are weak, a strong wind of life, a job loss, a sickness, a crisis can come and knock them both to the ground. But a relationship built on love and trust is like two magnificent, mature trees growing side by side in a forest. Each tree stands on its own, sovereign and complete. Each has sunk its roots deep into the earth, drawing its own sustenance, its own water, its own stability. Each has the space to stretch its branches as high and as wide as it can, reaching for the sun in its own unique way, unafraid of overshadowing the other. They are not tied together. They are not entangled. They are separate, yet they are together. Their roots may touch and communicate in the darkness of the soil, sharing nutrients and information. Their high branches may intertwine, creating a shared canopy that shelters them both and provides a home for other living things. Their combined presence makes the forest a richer, more beautiful place. But neither tree needs the other to stand. Their companionship is a joy, not a requirement. This is the goal. Not to lose yourself in another, but to be so fully yourself that you can stand strong next to another who is also fully themselves, together creating something more beautiful than either of you could have been alone. We have examined the clenched fist as it manifests in our ambition, our sleepless nights, our pursuit of happiness, our creative blocks, and our most intimate relationships. Now we must journey deeper, to the very source of the tension that causes the fist to clench in the first place. We arrive at the fundamental battleground upon which all our other struggles are waged, our war with reality itself. This is the most common, the most draining, and the most futile war a human being can fight. It is a war waged entirely within the confines of our own minds, a phantom battle against events that have already transpired and circumstances that are already true. It is the silent, bitter argument we have with what is. It is the source of that deep, corrosive feeling of indignation, that sense of personal injustice, that exhausting powerlessness that comes from perpetually wishing the world were different than it is. The anatomy of this resistance is built from the language of judgment, primarily the words should and should not. These are the weapons we use to assault the present moment. He shouldn't have said that. This illness shouldn't be happening to me. The traffic should be moving faster. Each of these statements, however small, is a rejection of reality. It creates a painful, stress-inducing gap between our expectations and the undeniable truth of the moment. We suffer not because of the event itself, but because of the gap we create with our judgment of it. This is a crucial distinction to understand. There is a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is the direct, unavoidable experience of life. It is the grief of a loss, the physical throb of an injury, the sting of a failure. Pain is an inevitable part of a full human existence. Suffering, however, is the secondary layer of anguish we add on top of the pain through our resistance to it. Suffering is the story we tell ourselves about our pain. Suffering is the "why me?" Suffering is the "this is unfair, it shouldn't be." Suffering is the endless mental replay of the event, the desperate search for someone to blame. The initial pain might be a sharp, clean wound, but the suffering is the self-inflicted infection we introduce by constantly poking at it, refusing to let it heal. Think of the colossal, pointless expenditure of life force this resistance requires. To argue with what has already happened is like trying to push a mountain. You can spend your entire life pushing, screaming at it, explaining why it should be located somewhere else. The mountain does not care. The mountain does not move. The only thing that becomes exhausted, broken, and defeated is you. This is the precious energy you could be using to heal your wounds, to learn from your mistakes, to adapt to your new circumstances, to create a better future. Instead, it is all being poured into a black hole of futile protest. This is the source of bitterness, that slow-acting poison that hardens the heart and sours the soul. It comes from living in a state of perpetual, low-grade warfare with a past that cannot be changed. This internal civil war leaves you feeling fractured and stuck. One part of you knows the truth of what happened, but another, more stubborn part, refuses to accept it, endlessly litigating the case in the courtroom of your mind, hoping for a different verdict that will never come. It is here that we must introduce the misunderstood and profoundly powerful concept of acceptance. For many, the word acceptance conjures images of weakness, of passivity, of resigned victimhood. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of its nature. Let us be clear about what acceptance is not. Acceptance is not agreement. You can accept that someone has treated you unfairly without agreeing with their actions. Acceptance is not condoning. You can accept the reality of an injustice without condoning it. Acceptance is not resignation or giving up on the future. It is the exact opposite. Acceptance is the prerequisite for all meaningful change. It is not a state of apathy. It is a state of supreme, clear-eyed pragmatism. It is the courageous act of looking at the facts on the ground without the distortion of your wishes or your fears and saying, "This is what is. This is the situation. This is the terrain I am now standing on." You cannot draw an accurate map out of a forest until you first accept your precise location within it. Acceptance is the act of dropping the unwinnable war so you can conserve your energy for the battles that can actually be won. So how do we practice this? How do we lay down our arms in a war we have been fighting our entire lives? We start with simple, transformative language. We learn to use the mantra of reality. When a difficult feeling or a painful memory of a past event arises, instead of immediately engaging in the old argument with it, you can simply label it with a calm, neutral phrase. It is as it is, or even more simply, this is. Notice the feeling of grief welling up. Instead of fighting it or judging it, just say to yourself, this is grief. Notice the reality of a difficult financial situation. Instead of panicking or denying, just state the fact. This is my financial reality right now. This simple act of naming creates a small, powerful space of awareness between you, the observer, and the experience itself. You are no longer fused with the pain or the problem. You are its witness. In that space lies your freedom and your power to choose your response. From this place of witnessing, you can then deploy the second practice, shifting the question. Our resistant minds love to ask backward-looking, powerless questions. Why did this happen to me? Whose fault is it? Why is life so unfair? These questions are traps. They lead only to spirals of blame and victimhood. The practice of acceptance involves consciously catching these questions and replacing them with forward-looking, empowering ones. The moment you catch yourself asking, "Why me?" gently pivot to, "Given that this has happened, what is the wisest thing for me to do now?" Or, "What is one small, constructive step I can take?" This pivot is the single most effective way to move from a state of passive suffering to a state of active agency. You are taking the energy you were wasting on pushing the mountain and redirecting it toward taking the first step on a new path. Imagine you are a swimmer enjoying the ocean, and you are suddenly caught in a powerful riptide that begins to pull you away from the shore. This is the unexpected, unwanted crisis of life. The panicked, untrained instinct is to fight it directly, to swim with every ounce of your strength straight back toward the beach, right against the powerful current. This is resistance. But the current is immensely stronger than you are. You will exhaust yourself in minutes, you will swallow water, and you will drown. Your heroic, head-on battle with reality will be your end. But the wise swimmer, the one who has been taught about the nature of the ocean, does something profoundly counterintuitive. They do not fight. They relax their body. They surrender to the pull of the current for a moment. This is acceptance. They conserve their precious energy, allowing the current to carry them. They know that a riptide is a narrow channel, so once the initial panic subsides, they begin to swim calmly, parallel to the shore. They are not swimming against the current, nor are they swimming with it. They are swimming across it. In a short time, they exit the narrow band of the riptide and find themselves in calm water again, from which they can easily swim back to land. It was their acceptance, their refusal to wage the unwinnable war, that saved them. It allowed them to act intelligently, to navigate their reality instead of protesting it. This is the awesome, life-saving power of acceptance. It is not giving up. It is the beginning of all wisdom and the foundation of all true strength. Having learned the wisdom of accepting the world as it is, of ceasing our war with external reality, we must now apply this profound principle to the most intimate and turbulent territory of all, the inner landscape of our own mind. For most of us, our inner world is a place of constant, chaotic weather. One moment, the sun of happiness is shining. The next, dark clouds of sadness gather. A sudden squall of anger blows through, followed by the dense fog of confusion or the sharp electric anxiety of a thunderstorm. And throughout this ever-changing weather pattern, we make a fundamental and tragic mistake. We believe that we are the weather. When anger rages, we say, "I am angry." When sadness descends, we say, "I am sad." When a fearful thought flashes through our consciousness, we say, "I am afraid." We fuse our very identity, our core sense of self, with these fleeting, transient mental and emotional states. And in doing so, we condemn ourselves to being tossed and turned, helpless in every storm that life blows our way. This fusion, this unquestioned identification with the stream of our consciousness, is the root of most of our psychological suffering. There is a voice in our head, a narrator that almost never stops talking. It is the constant commentator, the planner, the worrier, the judge, the critic. We have listened to this voice for so long that we assume it is who we are. We take its pronouncements as gospel truth. If the voice says, "You are a failure," we believe it. If the voice says, "There is something to worry about," we become consumed by anxiety. We have become fused with the movie playing in our minds, forgetting that we are sitting in the theater. We react to every dramatic twist and turn on the screen as if it were happening to us in reality. This is the tyranny of the unidentified thought. What adds to this tyranny is the radical and often disturbing realization that we do not consciously choose the vast majority of our thoughts. They are not authored by a central I. They simply appear. They bubble up from the deep well of our subconscious, conditioned by a lifetime of experiences, fears, desires, and ingrained beliefs. Thoughts are automatic mental events, like the sounds of digestion or the beating of our own hearts. They are a biological process. To build your entire sense of self upon this random, automatic, and often negative stream of mental noise is like building your house on a foundation of quicksand. It is to give absolute authority to an unelected and often quite insane inner dictator. The internal conflict is profound. There is a deep part of our being, our soul, that craves silence, stillness, and peace. It yearns for a quiet mind. But our habitual, unconscious mind is addicted to noise, to drama, to problems. We try to find peace by fighting with our thoughts. We try to stop thinking, which is itself a thought, and only creates more struggle. We try to force ourselves to think positive, which is often a violent act of suppressing what is actually present, a form of resistance that only gives the negative thoughts more power in the shadows. We are like a prisoner trapped in a cell, trying to escape by running headfirst into the walls. The struggle itself is what solidifies the prison. The desire for peace is at war with the very mental habits that make peace impossible. The escape, the liberation, does not come from winning the war. It comes from realizing that you are not the prisoner. You are not even the cell. You are the space in which the cell exists. The core message, the great unveiling that changes everything, is this: you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that is aware of your thoughts. You are not the clouds or the storm or the sunshine. You are the vast, open, limitless sky in which all the weather of your life comes and goes. The clouds of sadness may gather and weep rain upon the earth, but they do not stain the sky. The lightning of anger may flash, but it does not scar the sky. The brightest sun and the darkest storm are both temporary events held within the vast, unchanging, and silent embrace of the sky. To realize, even for a moment, that your true identity is this sky-like awareness, is to find a place of unshakable refuge, a peace that is not dependent on the ever-changing weather of your life's circumstances or your mind's moods. How do we practice inhabiting this sky-like nature? We begin by becoming a curious observer of our own minds. This is the essence of mindfulness meditation. Find a quiet moment to sit, close your eyes, and simply wait for your next thought to appear. Do not try to create it. Do not hunt for it. Simply be the silent watcher at the gate, waiting to see what comes down the road. The moment a thought appears, you have succeeded, because in the act of watching for it, you have already created a separation. There is the thought, and there is you, the one who is watching the thought. In that space, however small, lies all your freedom. As you become more adept at watching, you can begin the practice of gently labeling your thoughts. When a thought about your to-do list appears, you can silently note in your mind, planning. When a worry about something you said yesterday arises, you can label it, worrying or remembering. When a harsh thought about yourself comes up, judging. The purpose is not to analyze the content, but simply to recognize the process. You are demoting the thought from the position of an absolute commander to that of a simple, observable mental event. It's like being a meteorologist who calmly identifies the cloud types. A cirrus cloud of planning, a cumulus cloud of memory, a dark thunderhead of judgment, instead of being a person on the ground getting drenched by every downpour. The thoughts lose their personal, authoritative charge. They become impersonal events in consciousness. To live this way is to fundamentally change your relationship with yourself and the world. Life will continue to produce weather. This is its nature. There will be real losses that bring clouds of grief. There will be injustices that bring winds of anger. The goal is not to achieve a state of permanent, cloudless sunshine. That is an unnatural and ultimately fragile state. The goal is to become the sky. It is to so fully embody the vast, open, accepting nature of your own awareness that you have space for all of it. When the storm of grief comes, you can let it rain. You are the sky that holds the storm. You are vast enough. You are not afraid of it, because you know it cannot harm your essential nature. It is just weather, and it will pass. This is the ultimate inner freedom. It is not freedom from difficulty, but freedom within difficulty. It is the peace that passeth all understanding, because it is not contingent on understanding or on circumstances being a certain way. It is the discovery of the permanent, peaceful, clear blue that is always present, just behind the temporary clouds of thought. It is the realization that no matter how turbulent the weather of the moment may seem, your true nature is, and always has been, one of boundless, unshakable peace. We have learned to accept the reality of the world around us and the weather of the world within us. Now, we must confront one of the most celebrated yet insidious tyrants of the modern soul, the idol of perfection. We live in a world that worships at its altar. We scroll through galleries of flawless lives, filtered and curated to eliminate any trace of the messy, unpredictable, and authentic human experience. We are sold the dream of the perfect body, the perfect career, the perfect family, the perfect self. And so we learn to wear the mask of perfection, a heavy, suffocating facade that hides our beautiful, flawed, and utterly human faces from the world, and even from ourselves. We are told that perfectionism is a noble pursuit of excellence, a sign of high standards. This is a dangerous lie. Perfectionism is not a standard to aspire to. It is a shield to hide behind. Its true nature is not a striving for the best. It is a desperate flight from judgment. It is not an act of love for one's work. It is an act of profound fear of criticism. The perfectionist's mantra is not, "Let me make this excellent." It is, "If I can make this flawless, then no one can hurt me. If there are no cracks, no one can call me broken." It is a preemptive defense mechanism, a suit of armor so heavy it makes it impossible to move. High standards are motivating. They pull you forward. Perfectionism is paralyzing. It holds you hostage. It tethers your fundamental sense of self-worth to the outcome of your performance. It whispers the most toxic belief of all. Your value as a person is conditional upon the flawlessness of what you produce. This creates a state of chronic, low-grade anxiety, a feeling that you are perpetually on trial and that the verdict could, at any moment, be a devastating not good enough. And here lies the great, tragic paradox of this affliction. Perfectionism is the mother of all procrastination. The fear of creating an imperfect product becomes so overwhelming that it feels safer to create nothing at all. The blank page, which we have discussed, remains blank, not from a lack of vision, but because every vision that appears is instantly judged by the internal critic as insufficiently brilliant to risk manifestation. We self-sabotage in the name of quality. We abandon projects halfway through. We leave our most important work in a perpetual state of almost finished, because to finish it would be to expose it to the possibility of judgment. To finish it is to make it real, and to be real is to be imperfect. And so we live in a prison of the almost, our greatest gifts and most passionate ideas locked away, starving for the light of day, all to protect our fragile egos from a critique that may or may not ever come. The internal conflict is agonizing. The soul yearns to create, to contribute, to participate in the dance of life. But the perfectionist mind, in its role as a terrified security guard, forbids it. It prefers the sterile safety of inaction to the messy, unpredictable reality of creative effort. There is no joy of completion, only the brief, hollow relief of having dodged a potential failure. The work itself becomes a source of dread rather than fulfillment. We are a singer with a beautiful voice who is too afraid of hitting a flat note to ever sing a song. What a profound waste of the music we were born to make. The only way to break free from this self-imposed prison is to embrace a new gospel, the gospel of good enough. The liberating mantra we must repeat until it sinks into our bones is this: done is better than perfect. An imperfect painting hanging on a wall is infinitely more valuable than a perfect masterpiece that exists only in your imagination. An imperfect act of kindness, clumsily expressed, does more good in the world than the most eloquent, perfect sentiment that remains unspoken. Life happens in the realm of the completed, the tangible, the real. Perfection is a sterile, lifeless abstraction. We must reframe our entire approach to our endeavors. This is not a final exam. This is a laboratory. And in a laboratory, there are no failures, only data. An experiment that yields an unexpected result is not a mistake. It is a discovery. We must learn to see our so-called flaws and errors not as signs of our inadequacy, but as evidence of our courage to participate, as markers on the journey of learning and growth. How do we put this radical grace into practice? First, we must learn to love the deadline. A deadline, whether externally imposed or self-created, is a powerful antidote to perfectionism. It forces us to make choices. It requires us to let go of obsessive tinkering. It makes us declare something finished and move on. It creates a container that protects us from the infinite, anxious loop of just one more tweak. Treat your deadlines as sacred contracts with yourself. Second, you must practice the art of shipping before you feel ready. This is a form of exposure therapy for the fear of judgment. Send the email, submit the report, publish the article, hit post. Do it before you are 100% certain it is flawless. You will quickly learn a liberating truth. The world does not end. In fact, most people will not even notice the tiny imperfection you obsessed over for hours. And even if they do, you will learn that you can survive criticism. You will build a resilience that is far more valuable than any fragile, perfect creation. Finally, you must consciously celebrate the act of completion itself. When you finish a task, no matter how small, take a moment to pause. Acknowledge the effort. Acknowledge the focus. Acknowledge the courage it took to overcome the resistance and see it through to the end. Do this regardless of what you think of the outcome. This practice retrains your nervous system. It begins to associate completion with a feeling of reward and satisfaction rather than with the dread of impending judgment. You are honoring the process, not just the product. Let us close with the story of a bowl. First, imagine a pristine white porcelain bowl, mass-produced by a machine. It is perfectly symmetrical. Its surface is flawless. There is not a single mark or deviation to be found. It is, by all definitions, perfect. And yet, it is cold. It is sterile. It has no soul, no story. Now, imagine a different bowl. This one was crafted by human hands from a lump of clay. It is slightly asymmetrical. The glaze has dripped in an unpredictable way. If you look closely, you might even see the faint impression of the maker's fingerprint. It is imperfect, and in its imperfection, it is alive. It has character. It has warmth. This is the essence of the Japanese aesthetic of wabi-sabi, a beauty that is found in things that are imperfect, impermanent, and humble. Now, imagine this handmade bowl is accidentally dropped and shatters into several pieces. Instead of being swept into the trash, it is painstakingly repaired using the ancient art of kintsugi. The broken pieces are glued back together with a special lacquer mixed with glittering powdered gold. The finished bowl now has luminous, golden veins running through it where the cracks used to be. The breakage and repair are not hidden. They are illuminated. They have become the most beautiful and compelling feature of the object. The bowl is now more precious, more beautiful, and more resilient because it was broken. The scars tell a story. They speak of its history, of its trauma, and of its healing. This is the ultimate metaphor for a human life. It is our flaws, our mistakes, our scars, our healed wounds that give us our depth, our character, our compassion, and our truest beauty. To chase the sterile illusion of perfection is to deny our own magnificent golden story. To embrace our imperfection is to finally see ourselves as we are, whole, beautiful, and complete, not in spite of our cracks, but because of them. We now venture into a territory that is both popular and profoundly misunderstood, the landscape often called the law of attraction. We have been sold a simplified, almost magical version of this principle, that if you simply think the right thoughts, visualize your desires with enough intensity, and want something badly enough, the universe will deliver it to your doorstep like a cosmic package. For many who have tried this with sincere effort, the result has been not a windfall of riches and romance, but a deep sense of frustration, failure, and even betrayal. The great secret, they find, does not seem to work. The reason for this failure is not that the law is false, but that its popular interpretation is missing the most critical, paradoxical component. The universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. It does not deliver what you ask for with your words. It mirrors back to you the truth of your energetic state. And this is why the harder you try to attract something from a place of desperation, the more you reinforce its absence. Imagine that reality is a vast, impartial mirror. It has no judgment, no preference, no agenda of its own. Its only function is to reflect, with perfect fidelity, the image you present to it. Now, imagine you stand before this mirror, desperate to see an image of wealth. You chant the words, "I am wealthy." You hold up a picture of a luxurious car, but the mirror does not see your words or your pictures. It sees the truth beneath them. It sees the frantic, needy energy in your eyes. It feels the deep, vibrating frequency of "I do not have enough" emanating from your gut. It registers the clenched fist of your desire, a fist tightened by the fear of lack. And so, with perfect impersonal accuracy, it reflects back to you a reality that perfectly matches that energy. More experiences of not having enough, more circumstances that validate your fear of lack. The energy of desperation is a powerful broadcast, and it only attracts circumstances that resonate with desperation. This is the fatal flaw in the forceful approach to manifestation. It is another form of the war against what is. When you stand in a reality of financial struggle and try to force a feeling of wealth, you are creating a violent internal conflict. Your affirmations become lies that your own nervous system rejects. Every cell in your body knows the reality of the unpaid bills, the dwindling bank account. To shout, "I am abundant," into this reality is an act of denial, not an act of creation. The underlying bass note of your fear is so powerful that it completely drowns out the tinny, superficial melody of your wishful thinking. The universe, the great mirror, hears the bass note. It always hears the deepest truth of your energetic signature. You cannot lie to the mirror. You cannot command it to show you something other than what you are. The more desperately you try to force a new reflection, the more contorted and strained your own face becomes, and the more that pained reflection is what you receive. The internal conflict of the forceful manifester is agonizing. There is an intense desire for a different life, a genuine and powerful yearning. But this desire is poisoned by the energy of need. It is not the light, joyful desire of a child imagining a new game. It is the heavy, anxious desire of a drowning person grasping for a log. This grasping energy is the energy of resistance, the energy of non-acceptance of the present moment. It is the energy of, "I cannot be happy until this happens." This creates a terrible cycle of hope and crash. You visualize with all your might. You feel a brief surge of hope, and then you look around and see that your reality has not changed. The mirror remains the same. A wave of despair washes over you. You feel foolish, or you feel that the universe is cruel and capricious. You redouble your efforts, visualize harder, want more desperately, and in doing so, you just broadcast your frequency of lack even more loudly, ensuring the mirror will continue to reflect it. The escape from this loop requires a complete reversal of approach. The true secret is this: you do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. The work is not to get something to fill an inner void. The work is to become so full within yourself that the void no longer exists. The external world is a lagging indicator of your internal state, not the cause of it. Therefore, to attract abundance, you must first cultivate the feeling of abundance. To attract love, you must first become a source of love. To attract peace, you must first find a center of peace within yourself. The change must happen inside first. The reflection in the mirror can only change after the object in front of it has changed. It is an inside-out job. So how do we practice this? How do we cultivate the feeling of abundance when our external reality seems to be screaming lack? We begin by radically redefining what it means to be rich. You must withdraw your attention from the 1 or 2 areas where you feel lack and place it squarely on the 1,000 areas where you are overflowing with abundance. Right now, in this moment, you are an atmospheric billionaire. You are breathing in a priceless, life-giving ocean of oxygen, freely and without effort. Feel the richness of that. You are wealthy in heartbeats, with a faithful, tireless muscle in your chest, gifting you moment after moment of existence. You are wealthy in sensory experience. The warmth of the sun on your skin, the complex flavor of a sip of coffee, the intricate beauty of a leaf, these are riches of a quality that no amount of money can buy. The practice is to marinate your consciousness in the abundance that is already here. Feel the solid support of the chair beneath you. Feel the miracle of sight, of hearing. When you begin to genuinely, viscerally feel the profound wealth of what you do have, you begin to change your energetic signature. You begin to shift your broadcast from the frequency of lack to the frequency of gratitude and sufficiency. From this place, you can then practice acting as if. This is not about being fake. It is about embodiment. It is about letting your actions be guided by the new, abundant state you are cultivating. If you want to feel prosperous, treat the money you do have with respect and gratitude, not with fear and hoarding. When you pay a bill, do so with a feeling of gratitude for the service you received, rather than with a feeling of loss. When you have the opportunity, be generous in small ways. Leave a slightly larger tip. Donate $1 to a cause you believe in. Buy a coffee for a friend. These small acts send a powerful signal to your subconscious and to the universe. I have enough. I have enough to share. You are acting from a place of sufficiency, and the mirror of reality will begin to reflect that state back to you. Let us close with the metaphor of a radio. Imagine that reality is a limitless radio broadcast with an infinite number of stations playing at once on different frequencies. There is a station at 88.5 FM that plays only the music of poverty, struggle, and complaint. There is another station at 93.7 FM that plays only the music of loneliness and heartbreak. But there is also a station up at 104.3 FM that is broadcasting nothing but the frequency of joyful abundance, deep connection, and vibrant well-being. All of these stations are broadcasting, right now, with perfect clarity and power. Your inner state, your predominant blend of thoughts and feelings, is the tuner on your personal radio. If your tuner is locked onto 88.5 FM, the frequency of lack and fear that is the only music you can possibly hear, you can stand in front of your radio and scream at it, demanding that it play the beautiful music from 104.3 FM. But the radio cannot comply. It is physically impossible. It can only play the frequency to which it is tuned. The work of manifestation, then, is not to yell at the radio. It is not to beg the broadcaster to change the music. The work is to calmly, patiently, and deliberately reach out and begin to turn your own dial. Every act of gratitude, every moment you choose to feel abundant in what you have, every action taken from a place of sufficiency is a small conscious turn of that dial. You move from 88.5 to 89, to 95, to 101. As you shift your own frequency, you will inevitably begin to pick up a new broadcast. The music of your life will begin to change. You have not forced reality to be different. You have simply aligned yourself with the reality you wish to experience, a reality that was there, broadcasting its beautiful music all along, just waiting for you to tune in. After so much exploration of surrender, of acceptance, of letting go, a natural question may arise in the mind. So, am I supposed to do nothing? Do I simply sit in passive resignation as the world unfolds around me? This is a crucial point, and the answer is a resounding no. The philosophy we are exploring is not one of apathy or inaction. It is the path to a more potent, more graceful, and more effective form of action. It is about learning to engage with the world, to strive, to create, and to build, but to do so without the frantic, desperate, and ultimately self-sabotaging energy of attachment. We are here to learn how to master the supreme paradox of doing, how to act with absolute commitment while being completely indifferent to the fruits of that action. This is the way of flow, the path of power. First, we must dissect the nature of attached action, the way most of us operate most of the time. When you act with attachment to the outcome, your mind is never fully present with the task at hand. It is a time traveler, perpetually rocketing into the future. It is rehearsing the victory speech. It is catastrophizing the potential failure. It is imagining the praise or the criticism of others. This constant mental projection robs the present moment of its power. The energy that you could be using to perform the task with excellence is instead being siphoned off to fuel the anxieties and fantasies of the ego. The action itself becomes poisoned with the vibration of need. The simple desire to do a good job on this project metastasizes into the desperate, fearful demand, I need this to succeed, otherwise I am a failure. This feeling of neediness, as we have explored, is the energy of lack. It makes the body tense, the breath shallow, and the mind scattered. It turns every step of the process into a high-stakes gamble, freighted with the unbearable weight of consequence. This way of acting is utterly joyless. The process, the actual work, the writing of the email, the crafting of the wood, the conversation with the clientess, seen not as a meaningful activity in itself, but as a tedious obstacle to be overcome on the way to the result. We miss the richness of the journey because our eyes are fixed solely on the destination. The internal conflict is one of profound division. Your body is here, in the present, performing an action. But your mind is elsewhere, a nervous spectator in a future arena. You are like a driver whose eyes are glued to the destination on a GPS screen rather than on the road directly in front of them. It is in this state of divided attention that we make careless mistakes, miss subtle opportunities, and burn ourselves out with the friction of our own inner resistance. We are trying to pour our energy into a task through a hose that is riddled with the leaks of worry and fear. The alternative, the path to power and grace, is to shift the very locus of your love. The core message is this: you must learn to fall in love with the process, not just the prize. You must find the sacred in the mundane. You must treat every small action not as a means to an end, but as a complete and worthy end in itself. The goal is to bring the full, undivided power of your presence to the task at hand, and to let the results unfold as they may. This is the heart of the ancient Taoist concept of Wu Wei, which can be translated as effortless action or action without struggle. It does not mean being lazy. It means acting with such a profound sense of alignment with the present moment that the action feels as though it is happening through you rather than being forced by you. This state of flow, where time seems to disappear and your sense of self dissolves into the activity, is only possible when the ego, with its desperate attachment to outcomes, is gently asked to step aside. How do we practice this art of sacred doing? We begin, as always, by making the task smaller. Our attached minds are overwhelmed by big, abstract goals like build a successful business or write a book. The practice is to break these down into the smallest possible concrete actions. Your goal is not to build a business. Your goal is to make this one phone call. And for the duration of that phone call, your entire universe is the sound of the other person's voice, the words being exchanged, the connection being made. You bring the totality of your being to that single act. When the call is over, it is over. You have done your part. The outcome is no longer in your hands. From this, we move to the practice of conscious release. After you have completed an action, sent the important email, finished the presentation, had the difficult conversation, create a small, private ritual to cut the cord of attachment. It could be as simple as taking one deep breath in and, as you exhale, visualizing yourself releasing all control over the outcome. You can say to yourself mentally, "My work here is done. I release this into the world. The result is not my concern." This is a powerful act of mental hygiene. It prevents you from spending the next hours or days in a state of anxious rumination, replaying what you did and worrying about what will happen. You train yourself to find closure in the completion of the act itself, not in the arrival of the desired response. The ultimate training ground for this practice is in the mundane moments of your daily life. Can you bring this level of presence to the act of washing the dishes? Can you perform this simple task without your mind being in 5 other places at once? Can you simply be there with the feeling of the warm water on your hands, the texture of the soap, the sound of the plates, the satisfying sight of a dish becoming clean? If you can find a state of non-attached flow in this simple chore, you are building the mental muscle to bring it to anything. If you can wash a dish as if it is the most important thing in the world, you will be able to write a business plan or have a crucial conversation with that same level of focused, present moment power. Let us close with the story of the Zen archer. An ordinary archer is obsessed with the target. His mind is fixed on the bullseye, on the score, on the prize. His ego is entirely invested in the outcome. Because of this, his body is tense. His breath is held. His focus is split between the bow in his hands and the desired result in the distance. He is a house divided against itself. But the Zen archer is guided by his master to undertake a different practice. He is taught to forget the target completely. The target is a future illusion. The only reality is the process of this very moment. The archer learns to place his entire consciousness, his entire devotion, into the act itself. He becomes one with the feeling of his feet planted firmly on the earth. He becomes one with the deep, slow breath that fills his belly. He becomes one with the smooth, strong arc as he raises the bow. He becomes one with the sensation of the bowstring against his fingertips, the immense, stored power in the taut wood. The moment of release is not a calculation, it is a happening. For that single, timeless instant, there is no archer, no bow, no arrow, no target. There is only a unified, flowing process. He has fallen completely in love with the how, and because his mind is not divided, because his body is relaxed and free of anxious tension, because his entire being is consecrated to the present moment, the arrow flies with a straightness and a power that the attached archer can never achieve. It sinks into the dead center of the bullseye. The perfect result was not the goal. It was the effortless, inevitable byproduct of a process that was performed with selfless, non-attached devotion. This is the secret of mastery. This is the power of action without attachment. This is the dance of life lived in a state of flow. We have journeyed through the external world of action and the internal world of thought, learning to release our grip and observe with a calm, accepting awareness. Now, we must confront the architect of the clenched fist itself, the relentless inner general who commands us into 1,000 needless battles every single day. We must confront the ego and its most cherished, most voracious addiction, the need to be right. Our lives are filled with conflict, but the most frequent wars are not waged on grand battlefields. They are fought over the dinner table, in office meetings, during casual phone calls, and in the anonymous trenches of online comment sections. The subjects are often trivial: the correct way to load a dishwasher, the true meaning of a movie, a minor point of political fact. Yet we engage in these skirmishes with the life or death intensity of a final stand. This is because, for the ego, it is a matter of life and death. To understand this, we must first understand what the ego is. The ego is not your true self. It is not the vast, silent awareness we spoke of, the sky that holds the weather. The ego is a mental construct, a fictional character that you have built over a lifetime. It is a collage of beliefs, memories, social roles, labels, and opinions. It is the story of me. It includes ideas like, I am a smart person, I am a kind person, I am someone with good taste, I am a victim, I am a success. Because this self is just a collection of ideas, it is inherently fragile. It has no substance of its own. Therefore, it must constantly seek validation from the external world to reinforce its own existence. And its primary strategy for survival is through opposition, through comparison, and through conflict. The ego strengthens its fragile sense of self by being right and therefore making someone else wrong. When you win an argument, the ego gets a jolt of energy, a confirmation of its reality. I am right, it declares, therefore I exist. Conversely, to be proven wrong feels, to the ego, like a threat of annihilation, a small death. This deep, existential fear of being wrong fuels the addiction. It is why we feel a compulsive urge to correct someone on a minor detail. It is why we dominate conversations, ensuring our opinion is heard and validated. It is why we hold on to grudges, replaying arguments in our minds where we deliver the perfect, winning rebuttal. This constant need to be right is a symptom of profound inner insecurity. A person who is truly at peace with themselves, who is rooted in their deeper being, feels no compulsive need to constantly defend the fragile architecture of their opinions. They do not need to win small battles to feel that they exist. But for the ego-driven mind, life is a perpetual debate, and every interaction is a potential opportunity to score points and shore up its rickety defenses. Let us consider the immense price we pay for the ego's hollow victories. With every argument we win, we often lose something far more valuable: connection. In our quest to prove our point, we invariably make the other person feel small, unheard, or wrong. This creates a wall of separation and resentment. You may stand victorious on the hill of your correct opinion, but you will stand there alone. We sacrifice the warmth of harmony for the cold satisfaction of being right. Furthermore, we sacrifice our own inner peace. The state of argument is a state of stress. The body enters fight or flight mode. The jaw clenches, the heart rate increases, stress hormones flood our system. We trade our tranquility for turmoil. And perhaps most tragically, when our primary goal is to be right, we become incapable of truly listening. We do not listen to understand. We listen for the flaws in the other person's logic. We listen only to formulate our counterattack. In doing so, we close our minds. We shut ourselves off from new perspectives, from the possibility of learning, from the humility of growth, and from the simple, connective beauty of another human's experience. Our world becomes a small, rigid echo chamber, reflecting back to us only what we already believe. Here we are presented with one of the most direct and consequential choices we can make in our daily lives. In any moment of disagreement, you have a choice of intention. You must ask yourself, do I want to be right, or do I want to be at peace? Do I want to be right, or do I want to feel connected to this person? Very often, you cannot have both. And the great, liberating secret is this: letting go of the need to be right is not a defeat for you. It is a conscious, strategic, and powerful defeat of your ego, orchestrated by your higher, wiser self. It is the ultimate victory. It is choosing connection over conflict. It is choosing peace over the noise of argument. It is an act of supreme strength, not weakness, to lay down your arms in a battle that was never worth fighting. How do we begin this practice of ego disarmament? We start by transforming the way we listen. Enter your next conversation with the sole intention of deeply understanding the other person's perspective, especially if you disagree with it. Ask genuine questions. That's interesting. Can you tell me more about why you see it that way? Help me understand your feeling on this. This act alone shifts the energy from a confrontation to a collaboration. You are no longer two egos clashing swords. You are two minds trying to look at the same thing from different angles. Next, you must conduct a small experiment. In your next low-stakes disagreement, a debate over a movie, a difference of opinion on a news story, try deploying a simple, powerful phrase. It could be, "That's a valid point." It could be, "I had not considered it that way." Or, if you are feeling truly courageous, you can say, "You know, you could be right." Now, the critical part of this experiment is not to watch the other person's reaction. It is to immediately turn your awareness inward and watch your own ego's reaction. Feel its indignation. Feel its silent scream of protest. Feel the physical sensation of deflation or panic. Simply observe this internal tantrum with the calm, detached awareness of the sky watching a storm. Do not act on it. Just watch it. In bearing witness to the ego's theatrics without being consumed by them, you begin to break your identification with it. You see it for what it is, a conditioned, fearful reaction, not the truth of who you are. The ultimate practice is to shift your primary intention in all interactions from seeking to be understood to seeking to understand. Paradoxically, when you give another person the profound gift of feeling truly seen and heard, their own defenses lower. They become far more open and receptive to hearing your perspective in return. You create connection first, and understanding follows. Let us close with the image of a sandcastle. The ego is an elaborate sandcastle we build on the shores of our life. We spend countless hours constructing its walls of belief, its towers of achievement, its moats of defense. We patrol the ramparts constantly, anxiously, guarding it against the tide and against the other children on the beach who might kick it over. When someone presents a different opinion, it feels like an attack on our fortress. We frantically shovel sand, repair the walls, and shout at the aggressor. It is a constant, stressful, and ultimately futile job, because the tide of life will inevitably come. But you are not the sandcastle. Your true nature is the ocean itself. What does the ocean care if one small temporary sandcastle is washed away by a wave? The ocean is unthreatened. It is vast, powerful, and at peace. Its very nature is to create and dissolve, to ebb and to flow. To let go of the need to be right is to finally abandon the exhausting, pointless job of being the sandcastle's guard. It is to remember your true identity as the ocean. From this vast, oceanic perspective, the petty arguments and rigid opinions of the ego seem as insignificant and temporary as a child's fortress made of sand. To choose peace over being right is to remember that you are not the fragile structure. You are the entire, boundless, and eternal sea. Having dismantled the ego's need to be right, we now arrive at its closest and most powerful ally, its desperate need to appear strong. We live in a world that has taught us from our earliest days that vulnerability is a liability. It is weakness. It is danger. We are trained to construct an armor of competence, to project an image of having it all together, to answer the question, "How are you?" with a reflexive and often dishonest, "I'm fine," we learn to hide our fears, to suppress our sadness, to mask our uncertainties behind a stoic facade. We believe this armor keeps us safe. We believe it makes us look capable and worthy of respect. In reality, it is a self-imposed prison, a heavy, airless suit that separates us from the world, from each other, and from the truth of our own hearts. Today, we will explore the paradox that true strength is found not in the thickness of this armor, but in the courage it takes to remove it. Let us first examine the psychology of this manufactured invulnerability. The equation of vulnerability with weakness is a deep cultural programming. We are taught to admire the lone wolf, the stoic hero, the unshakable leader who never shows a moment of doubt. This creates a terrible internal pressure. We come to believe that the parts of us that are sad, afraid, confused, or struggling are shameful defects that must be hidden away. This creates a profound and painful split between our public self, the polished, capable mask we present to the world, and our private self, the one who lives with all the messy, beautiful, and authentic textures of human emotion. The tragic consequence of wearing this mask is a deep and pervasive loneliness. When you only allow the world to see your strengths, you can never feel truly known. The praise you receive feels hollow because it is applause for a performance, not love for the real person behind the curtain. You can be in a crowded room and feel utterly, completely alone because the person they are all interacting with isn't really you. You are an exile within your own life. The core fear that keeps this armor welded shut is the terror that if people saw what was truly inside the insecurity, the grief, the not knowing, they would turn away in disgust or judgment. It is the ego's deepest fear, that our authentic self is fundamentally flawed and unlovable. If they knew the real me, the ego whispers, they would leave. And so, to prevent this imagined abandonment, we preemptively abandon ourselves. We hide our truth, and in doing so, we make it impossible to ever receive the one thing we crave most: genuine, unconditional acceptance. The internal conflict is a silent scream. The soul has a primal, biological need to belong, to be seen and accepted for what it is. But the terrified ego, in its misguided attempt to keep us safe, constantly suppresses this need. It tells us that authenticity is too dangerous, that vulnerability is a risk we cannot afford to take. We are starving for a connection that our own defenses make impossible. Here, we must perform a radical reframing. We must tear down the old definition of strength and erect a new one in its place. The core message is this: vulnerability is not weakness. It is the most accurate measure of courage we have. It takes no courage to be perfect. That is impossible anyway. It takes no courage to display only your victories. It takes immense, breathtaking courage to show up and be seen when you cannot control the outcome. It is the courage to say, "I don't know," in a world that rewards certainty. It is the courage to say, "I need help," in a world that worships self-reliance. It is the courage to say, "I'm hurting," in a world that is uncomfortable with pain. Furthermore, vulnerability is the birthplace of all the experiences that make life worth living. Joy, creativity, belonging, and especially love all require us to be vulnerable. You cannot experience deep connection from behind a wall of armor. Empathy is not born from observing another's strength. It is born from recognizing a shared struggle in another's weakness. Vulnerability is the bridge of recognition that allows one human heart to truly see another. It is the space where we realize we are not alone in our humanity. The paradox is that the very thing we fear will push people away is the only thing that can truly and lastingly draw them in. Think of the people you feel most connected to in your life. Is it the ones who seem perfect and have all the answers? Or is it the ones who have had the courage to share their struggles with you, the ones who have let you see their imperfect human side? We don't trust perfection. we trust humanity. To receive support, you must first be willing to admit you need it. To be trusted, you must first be willing to be real. How do we begin to practice this terrifying and liberating art of being human? We do not start by standing on a stage and confessing our deepest secrets to the world. We start small. We start with calculated risks. The first practice is to choose one person in your life whom you trust, and to share one small vulnerability. It does not have to be a deep trauma. It can be a simple admission. I'm feeling really anxious about this upcoming presentation. I've been feeling a little lonely lately. I'm not sure I know how to handle this situation. Then, after you share, your only job is to notice. Notice that the world does not end. Notice that your friend does not run screaming from the room. In all likelihood, you will be met not with judgment, but with empathy, often followed by a vulnerable admission of their own. You will have created a moment of real connection. The second practice is to change your relationship with your own so-called weak emotions. When sadness or grief arises, instead of immediately trying to suppress it or cheer up, can you give it space? Can you see it not as a flaw, but as a natural, healthy response to pain or loss? To allow yourself to cry without shame is a profound act of self-acceptance. It is being vulnerable with yourself. It is saying, it is okay to be human, it is okay to hurt. The third, and perhaps most challenging practice, is to ask for help. The ego loves the role of the self-sufficient hero. To ask for help is a direct challenge to this identity. Find one small area in your life where you are struggling and ask someone for help. It could be help with a task, with a decision, with an emotional burden. This act of humility breaks the isolating spell of self-reliance and allows the grace of community to enter your life. Let us close with the image of a vessel. Imagine a ceramic pot that is perfectly fired, flawlessly glazed, and hermetically sealed. It is smooth, strong, and impenetrable. Nothing can get in, and nothing can get out. It is safe from the elements, but it is also dark, empty, and sterile inside. It cannot be filled, and most importantly, it cannot hold light. This is the life lived behind the armor of invulnerability. Now, imagine that same vessel through the course of its life endures some hardships. It gets knocked about, it falls, it develops a series of fine cracks. It is no longer perfect, it is no longer impenetrable, it is vulnerable. And it is only now, through these very cracks that we are so taught to despise, that the light can finally get in. The vessel that was once dark can now be filled with light, and the light that enters can then radiate outwards, illuminating the world around it. Our wounds, our fears, our insecurities, our heartbreaks, these are our cracks. We are taught to hide them as signs of our shame and brokenness, but the truth is, they are the very openings through which grace, empathy, connection, and love finally enter our lives. To be vulnerable is to have the courage to show your cracks. It is to understand that true strength is not about being unbreakable. It is about knowing that we are more beautiful, not in spite of our brokenness, but because of it. We arrive now at the complex, dynamic, and often frustrating arena of our relationships. We have explored our inner world, but it is in our interactions with others, our partners, our family, our colleagues, our friends, that our inner state is most severely tested and most clearly revealed. There is a common and deeply ingrained human project, a project many of us have been working on our entire lives without even realizing it. It is the project of improving others. We undertake this task with the best of intentions, under the noble-sounding guise of helping them, of wanting what's best for them, of guiding them to reach their potential. We become amateur therapists, coaches, and reformers, dedicating immense amounts of our precious life energy to the grand and futile crusade of trying to change other people. But what if this entire project, however well-intentioned, is a profound misapplication of our energy? What if the flaws we see so clearly in others are not about them at all, but are, in fact, secret messages about ourselves? To understand this, we must be willing to look into the shadows. Within the psyche of every human being, there is a shadow self. This is the psychological territory where we have banished all the parts of ourselves that we deem unacceptable, the traits that do not fit the story we like to tell about who we are. It is where our disowned anger resides, our repressed laziness, our hidden selfishness, our secret envy, our buried insecurity. We have pushed these traits so deep into the cellar of our unconscious that we are no longer aware they exist within us, but they do not disappear. Instead, they seek the light of day through a powerful psychological mechanism called projection. Because we cannot bear to see these traits in ourselves, we unconsciously project them outward and see them, with vivid and infuriating clarity, in the people around us. The world becomes a screen upon which our own inner shadow is played out. This is the secret anatomy of annoyance. The person whose arrogance drives you into a rage is often mirroring a disowned arrogance within you. The lazy coworker, who triggers your intense frustration, may be reflecting your own repressed desire to rest, a desire you have judged as unacceptable in your relentless pursuit of productivity. The needy friend whose constant demands irritate you may be showing you a reflection of your own unacknowledged emotional needs. The people who trigger us the most, the ones who can get under our skin with the slightest word or action, are not our enemies. They are our most valuable, albeit unwitting, spiritual teachers. They are holding up a perfect mirror, showing us the parts of ourselves that are crying out for our attention, for our healing, and for our integration. The intensity of our irritation with another person is often a direct measure of how much we have denied that same trait within ourselves. This leads to a life of chronic, low-grade warfare. When we believe the problem is out there, in the other person, we feel perpetually frustrated and powerless. We nag, we criticize, we manipulate, we give the silent treatment, all in a futile attempt to manage their behavior and force them to change into the person we think they should be. We are engaged in a constant, unwinnable battle against the simple, sovereign reality of another human being. This crusade is doomed to fail because you cannot control another person's inner world, their choices, or their path of growth. And so we become resentful. We feel like victims of their flaws, trapped in a state of righteous indignation, never realizing that the key to the prison door is in our own pocket. We are like a person looking in a mirror who, upon seeing a smudge on the reflection's face, spends all their energy trying to wipe the smudge off the mirror glass, growing more and more frustrated when it won't come off. The liberation from this painful and exhausting cycle comes from one of the most profound and empowering realizations a person can have. The only person in the universe you have the power or the right to change is yourself. This realization is the great release. It is the act of putting down a burden you were never meant to carry, the burden of responsibility for another person's soul, their behavior, their happiness. In this release, your relationships are instantly transformed. They cease to be frustrating projects to be managed, and they become sacred opportunities for self-discovery. The central question of your interactions shifts. It is no longer, how can I fix them? It becomes the much more interesting and fruitful question, what is this person and my reaction to them showing me about myself? Every moment of irritation becomes an invitation for introspection. Every conflict becomes a classroom for self-awareness. How do we practice this art of mirror gazing? It begins with a sacred pause. The next time you feel that hot surge of anger or that familiar wave of intense irritation towards someone, you must train yourself to pause before you react, before you speak, before you criticize. In that precious silent gap between stimulus and response, you must ask yourself the crucial question, what is it in me that is reacting so strongly to this? What part of my own shadow is being illuminated right now? Perhaps you can ask, where in my own life, even in a much smaller way, do I exhibit a version of this same behavior? This is not to say that the other person's behavior is necessarily right or acceptable. It is simply to shift the focus of the work from them to you. The practice is to consciously withdraw the projection. It is an internal movement of saying, this feeling of anger is mine. This irritation belongs to me. While their action was the trigger, my reaction is my responsibility and my opportunity for growth. From there, you must return to your own garden. We spoke of this in the context of love, and it applies universally. You must take all the energy you were spending trying to weed, prune, and manage your neighbor's garden and bring it back home to your own. Tend to your own soil, water your own flowers, pull your own weeds of judgment and fear. Paradoxically, a strange and wonderful thing often happens when you do this. When you stop trying to change someone, when you release them from the prison of your expectations and simply offer them your own peaceful, non-reactive presence, they often begin to change of their own accord. Your own transformation creates a new environment, a new relational field, in which they have the space and the safety to grow. Let us close with the image of the dusty mirror. Imagine you stand before a large, magnificent mirror, but its surface is covered in a thick layer of dust, grime, and fingerprints accumulated over many years. When you look into it, the reflection you see is distorted, smudged, and unclear. You see an ugly face, and you assume that is the truth. Your instinctive reaction is to get angry at the reflection. You try to fix it. You grab a cloth and begin to frantically rub the image of the face in the mirror, trying to wipe the dirt off. You grow exhausted and furious, because the smudge on the cheek in the reflection never moves. This is the foolishness of trying to change others. We are trying to clean the reflection. The wise path is to realize the truth. The dirt is not on the reflection. The dirt is on the mirror itself. The only effective action is to turn the cloth around and begin, gently and patiently, to clean the surface of your own perception, your own consciousness. As you wipe away the dust of your own unhealed wounds, your judgments, your projections, and your fears, the reflection magically begins to clear. The other person may not have changed one bit, but for the first time, you are seeing them and yourself clearly. You realize your relationships are not here to make you happy, they are here to make you conscious. And the people who trigger you most are not your tormentors, they are your most sacred and revealing mirrors. After our deep explorations into the grace of surrender, the wisdom of acceptance, and the freedom of letting go, a vital and practical question must be addressed. A misunderstanding may begin to form that this path is one of passivity, of lazy resignation, of allowing life to simply happen to us. This could not be further from the truth. The open hand is not a limp hand. The sky-like mind is not an empty mind. The art of letting go requires a foundation of profound strength, and that strength is forged in the fires of the most misunderstood and misrepresented of all virtues, self-discipline. We have been taught to see discipline as punishment. We associate it with the harsh ruler of a stern schoolmaster, the joyless denial of a rigid ascetic, the opposite of freedom and spontaneity. But this is a shallow and fearful interpretation. True self-discipline, when understood in its deepest sense, is not a prison. It is the master key that unlocks the door to the highest forms of freedom. We must begin by radically reframing what discipline is. At its core, true self-discipline is not an act of self-hatred, but the ultimate act of self-love. It is a profound act of kindness and respect performed by your present self for the benefit of your future self. When you choose to get out of bed to meditate for just 5 minutes, even when your body craves the comfort of the sheets, you are giving a gift to the person you will be in an hour, a person with a calmer, clearer mind. When you choose to eat a nourishing meal, Instead of succumbing to a craving for junk food, you are giving the gift of health and vitality to the body you will inhabit tomorrow. When you choose to do the difficult work on your important project for a short time, instead of escaping into mindless distraction, you are building a future of accomplishment and pride for the person you will be next year. Discipline is the act of choosing who you want to become over the fleeting impulses you happen to be feeling right now. It is a crucial distinction to understand that discipline is not the same as motivation. Motivation is a feeling, an emotion. It is a fair weather friend. It will visit you in a great rush of excitement and then abandon you for weeks on end without warning. To build your life on the foundation of motivation is to build your house on the shifting sands. Discipline, however, is not a feeling. It is a commitment. It is a system. It is a choice that you make once and then organize your life to uphold, regardless of your mood. Discipline is what gets you to the gym when the initial spark of New Year's resolution has long since faded. It is what gets you to your writing desk on a day when you feel uninspired. It is the deep, steady current that flows beneath the choppy, unpredictable waves of your daily emotional weather. To live without discipline is to live in a state of tyranny, the tyranny of your own impulses. You become a slave to every passing whim, a cork tossed on the ocean of your moods. If you feel like working, you work. If you don't, you don't. Your life's direction is not determined by your deepest values and highest aspirations, but by the fleeting chemistry of your brain in any given moment. This path leads inevitably to a destination of quiet regret. It is the heavy, aching knowledge of your own unfulfilled potential. You can see the person you could be, the life you could live, but the chasm between that vision and your daily actions seems impossibly wide. This is not freedom. This so-called freedom to do whatever you want is, in fact, a prison of mediocrity, a cage built from the bars of your own worst habits and your own most persuasive excuses. True freedom is not the absence of structure. It is the freedom from the things that hold you back. It is the freedom from the nagging voice of your inner critic telling you that you've wasted another day. It is the freedom from the chains of a bad habit. It is the freedom from the tyranny of your own moods. Self-discipline is what grants you this higher liberty. By consciously choosing to build a structure in your life, by committing to a practice, you liberate yourself from the endless, exhausting internal debate of should I or shouldn't I. You have already made the decision. The river finds its power and its direction by flowing within its banks. Without the discipline of the banks, the water does not become more free. It becomes a stagnant, powerless swamp. The structure provides the channel for power. How then do we build this structure without falling into the old trap of perfectionism and self-flagellation? We do so with compassion and with intelligence. The first rule is to start so small that it is almost laughable, so small that your lazy mind cannot mount a credible excuse. If you want to meditate, do not commit to 30 minutes. Commit to 1 minute. Anyone can do 1 minute. The goal is not the initial result. You will not achieve enlightenment in 1 minute. The goal is to forge a new identity. With each day that you complete your 1 minute, you are casting a vote for, I am a person who meditates. You are becoming the kind of person who shows up. Consistency is infinitely more important than intensity at the beginning. The second practice is to link your new habit to an old, established one. This is called habit stacking. The established habit, like brushing your teeth or making your morning coffee, has a gravitational pull in your brain. By tethering your new fragile habit to it, you give it an anchor. After I pour my first cup of coffee, I will sit down and meditate for 1 minute. Immediately after I take off my work shoes, I will put on my running shoes and walk for 5 minutes. You are no longer relying on willpower alone. You are leveraging the momentum of your existing routines. The third and most vital practice is that of the compassionate reset. You must go into this process with the absolute certainty that you will fail. You will miss a day. You will break the streak. The perfectionist mind will seize this moment and declare the entire project a failure. You've already ruined it, it will say. You might as well give up completely. The disciplined mind, the mind rooted in self-love, does not listen. It practices compassionate acceptance. It acknowledges the misstep without judgment and says, "Okay, that was yesterday. The streak is irrelevant. The practice is all that matters. Today, I begin again." The true art of discipline is not in never falling down. It is in the grace and speed with which you get back up. Let us close with the metaphor of fire. Our potential, our passion, our willpower, our energy is all a form of fire. A fire that is allowed to run wild without any structure is a wildfire. It rages across the landscape. It is chaotic, spectacular, and terrifying. It consumes everything in its path and ultimately burns itself out, leaving behind a barren wasteland of ash and devastation. This is the life of unchecked impulse. It may have moments of intense dramatic flair, but it is ultimately destructive. It does not build anything lasting. Now, imagine that same fire, with the same heat and the same energy, but contained within a well-built stone hearth, or focused within a powerful furnace. The structure of the hearth does not diminish the fire. It does not imprison it. It focuses it. It gives it purpose. Contained in the hearth, the fire can warm a home, cook a meal, become the center of a community. Contained in the furnace, it can melt ore and forge steel. It becomes a creative, generative, and transformative force. Self-discipline is the hearth you lovingly and intentionally build around the wild, beautiful fire of your own potential. It is the sacred structure that allows you to transform the chaotic energy of your impulses into a steady, reliable source of warmth, light, and power, capable of forging the life you truly wish to live. In our journey so far, we have navigated the abstract and often treacherous landscapes of the mind, the ego, and the heart. We have talked about surrender and discipline, acceptance, and letting go. Now, we must ground these philosophies in the simple, undeniable reality of the body. We must turn our attention to the most fundamental, most overlooked, yet most powerful force that animates our existence, the breath. The breath is the mysterious and beautiful bridge between our conscious and unconscious worlds, between our mind and our body. It is the only system in our physiology that operates perfectly on its own, yet which we can, at any moment, choose to consciously control. And in this unique duality lies a profound secret to mastering our inner state. The breath is the wind of the body, and through it, we can learn to calm the storms of the mind. First, we must understand the intimate, unbreakable feedback loop between your emotional state and your breathing pattern. Observe yourself. When a sudden fear grips you, when you receive a startling piece of news, what is the first thing that happens? You gasp. Your breath becomes rapid, shallow, and held high in the chest. This is your body's ancient, intelligent preparation for fight or flight. It is flooding your system with oxygen, preparing your muscles to run or to fight. Conversely, think of a moment of deep relaxation or contentment, perhaps lying in the sun or just before drifting off to sleep. How is your breath? It is slow, it is deep, it is rhythmic, originating from low in your belly. The body is in a state of rest and digest. The mind changes the breath. This is an obvious, observable fact of our biology. But here is the life-altering secret. This is a two-way street. Just as surely as your mind can alter the pattern of your breath, the pattern of your breath can alter the state of your mind. By consciously and deliberately taking control of your breath, by slowing it down, by deepening it, by making it more regular, you are sending a powerful and direct signal back to your primal brain. You are speaking to your nervous system in the only language it truly understands. You are telling it, the emergency is over. The threat has passed. You are safe. You can stand down from high alert. This is not wishful thinking. This is not a metaphor. It is a direct physiological intervention. It is the most powerful and immediate tool you have for managing anxiety, for diffusing anger, and for returning to your center in moments of chaos. Furthermore, the breath possesses a magical quality. It can only exist in the present moment. You cannot take a breath that is in the past. You cannot take a breath that is in the future. Each inhalation and each exhalation is a complete event that happens only and always now. Therefore, to place your awareness on the sensation of your breathing is the most effective method ever devised for pulling your time-traveling mind out of its anxious rehearsals of the future and its regretful ruminations of the past, and anchoring it firmly in the reality of the only moment that ever exists. Imagine yourself caught in a sudden emotional storm. Perhaps a careless word from another person ignites a hot, blinding flash of anger. Perhaps a sudden worry about your health triggers a cold wave of panic. In these moments, we feel hijacked, we feel lost. Our rational, thinking mind goes completely offline, and we become pure, reactive emotion. We are a ship caught in a hurricane, tossed about on violent waves, with no land in sight, no stars to guide us. The internal conflict in these moments is the desperate, primal cry for something to hold on to, for a solid point of reference, for an anchor that can keep us from being completely swept away and drowned in the overwhelming chaos of our own feelings. The core message of this teaching is that you already possess this anchor. It was given to you at the moment of your birth, and it will stay with you until your final moment. It requires no special training to find, it costs nothing, and it is available to you in every conceivable situation. This anchor is your own breath. Its reliability is absolute. No matter how far you have drifted into the turbulent waters of anxiety, no matter how lost you feel in the dense fog of sadness, the path back to the stable ground of the present moment is never more than a single, conscious breath away. The simplicity of this tool is what makes it so easy to overlook, and yet it is the source of its profound power. You do not need to fix your problems to find peace. You do not need to solve your life's dilemmas. You only need to return your awareness to the gentle, rhythmic rising and falling of your own chest. How do we put this into immediate practice? Let us begin with the simplest and most accessible technique, the 3-breath reset. The next time you feel the familiar signs of stress rising within you, the tightened jaw, the tense shoulders, the racing mind, I invite you to pause. Before you speak, before you react, before you are swept away, perform this simple ritual. First, take a slow, deep inhalation through your nose. Imagine you are filling your entire belly with air, like a balloon. Feel it expand. When you are full, pause for just a second, and then exhale slowly and completely through your mouth, as if you are gently blowing out through a thin straw. Let the exhale be longer than the inhale. As you exhale, feel your shoulders drop. Feel the tension begin to leave your body. Repeat this 2 more times. Slow, deep inhale through the nose. Pause. Long, slow, complete exhale through the mouth. This entire process may take less than 30 seconds, but it can be the difference between a mindful response and a disastrous reaction. It creates a sacred space, a circuit breaker in the mind, allowing your rational brain to come back online. For a more structured practice, you can use what is known as the box breath. It is a simple way to impose a calming, predictable rhythm onto a chaotic system. You simply breathe to a count of 4, inhale for a count of 4, hold your breath for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, hold the breath out for a count of 4. Repeat. This is not just a breathing technique, it is a meditation. It gives your restless mind a simple, calming task to focus on, preventing it from spiraling into its usual patterns of worry. Let us close with two interwoven images, the wind and the anchor. Your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, they are like the wind. You cannot see the wind itself. It is formless, invisible, and often unpredictable. You can only see its effects as it moves through the trees, rustling the leaves, or as it moves across the water, creating waves. Your breath is also a form of wind, the physical wind of your body. It is the tangible manifestation of the life force animating you. And unlike the chaotic wind of the mind, you can consciously choose to guide it. You can make it a gentle, steady breeze. And in doing so, you can calm the invisible inner winds. But more than this, the breath is your anchor. Imagine your life is a great ship, and a storm has descended. The waves of circumstance are high, the winds of emotion are howling. The ship is being tossed about, and it feels as though you will be smashed against the rocks. This is when you drop your anchor. The anchor of the breath sinks down, past the turbulent, chaotic surface of your thoughts and feelings. It sinks until it finds a firm hold on the calm, solid, unmoving seabed below. This seabed is the present moment. This is the simple reality of your body, sitting here, breathing. The ship is still on a stormy sea. The waves still crash against its hull. The wind still howls. The anchor does not magically make the storm disappear, but it holds the ship fast. It prevents it from being driven into the rocks. It keeps it safe and steady until the storm passes, as all storms eventually do. Your breath is your anchor. No matter the chaos on the surface, it is your unwavering connection to the deep, silent peace of the present moment. Remember it. Use it. It will never fail you. We live in a culture that worships the earthquake, the explosion, the lightning strike. We are addicted to the myth of the overnight success, the quantum leap, the sudden dramatic breakthrough. We are shown stories of companies that explode onto the scene, of artists who are discovered and become global stars in an instant. This narrative leads us to believe that progress should be a steep, exhilarating, upward curve. It teaches us to value intensity over consistency, and in doing so, it sets us up for profound and inevitable disappointment. For the truth is that nature, in its deep and patient wisdom, rarely works through explosions. It works through the slow, quiet, almost invisible process of gradual accumulation. It works through persistence. And it is in understanding this gentle, relentless force that we find the true path to overcoming any obstacle and achieving any meaningful, lasting goal. The modern mind is psychologically unfit for the long journey. We have been conditioned by a world of instant gratification. We expect instant downloads, instant messages, instant validation. This rewires our brains to crave immediate results for our efforts. This impatience leads us into a predictable psychological trap. When we embark on a new endeavor, learning an instrument, starting a business, transforming our health, we almost always begin with a heroic but unsustainable burst of intense effort. We overestimate what we can accomplish in a single day or a single week. We stay at the gym for 2 hours. We write 10 pages of our book. We work on our new business until 3 in the morning. For a short time, we feel like heroes. But this intensity is fueled by the fleeting emotion of motivation. And when that initial spark dies, as it always does, we are left exhausted, burned out, and discouraged by the sheer scale of the mountain we are trying to climb. At the same time, we tragically underestimate the power of the compound effect. We dismiss the small daily action as insignificant. What difference does meditating for 5 minutes make? What good is writing 1 paragraph? What impact can saving $10 possibly have? Because the immediate result of these actions is negligible, our impatient minds discard them as worthless. We cannot see, we cannot intuitively feel how these tiny, seemingly inconsequential efforts, when repeated with unwavering consistency over months, and years and decades compound into massive, life-altering transformations. This blindness to the power of slow accumulation is one of the greatest sources of our unfulfilled potential. This sets up the great internal war that causes most people to abandon their dreams. The war is fought between initial enthusiasm and the grinding reality of the plateau. After the first exciting rush, progress inevitably slows. The work becomes difficult. It becomes repetitive. It becomes, at times, profoundly boring. This is the moment of truth. This is the long, flat plateau where you are putting in the effort day after day, but you see no visible results. Your enthusiasm dies, and it is replaced by its mortal enemies: discouragement, doubt, and boredom. This is the point where the mind, addicted to novelty and immediate reward, begins to whisper its seductive poison. This isn't working. You're wasting your time. You don't have what it takes. You should just quit. And most people do. They have mistaken the plateau for the end of the road. Here, we must redefine our understanding of power. We must look to the wisdom of water. True power is not the violent, momentary force of dynamite that can shatter a rock into 1,000 pieces. That is a one-time event, loud and dramatic, but finite. True, enduring power is the gentle, silent, relentless persistence of a single drop of water falling on that same rock, in the same spot, hour after hour, day after day, year after year. For a long time, nothing seems to happen. But eventually, inevitably, the water drop wears a groove, then a channel, then a deep hole in the hardest of stones. It overcomes the rock, not through brute force, but through unwavering, patient, gentle consistency. This is the power we must learn to cultivate. To harness this power, we must shift our commitment away from the outcome and place it firmly on the process. Your goal is not to wear away the stone. That is a result that may take years and is outside of your direct control. Your only goal, your only concern, is to be the drop of water that falls today. Your victory is not in reaching the distant destination. Your victory is found in the simple, humble act of showing up, especially on the days you feel no motivation, on the days the work feels boring, on the days you see no progress. That is the day that matters most. That is the day you forge the habit of persistence. The practice, then, is one of relentless gentleness. We begin by making the daily commitment so small that it is impossible to refuse. We can call it the 2-minute rule. Whatever your grand ambition, shrink the daily requirement down to just 2 minutes. You don't have to write your novel. You just have to write for 2 minutes. You don't have to get in shape. You just have to put on your running shoes and walk for 2 minutes. The secret is that the inertia of inaction is the most powerful force to overcome. But once you have started, once you have been moving for 2 minutes, you will very often find you want to continue. The task is not to be a hero every day. The task is simply to start. Next, you must redefine your metric for success. On any given day, success is not measured by the quantity or quality of your output. It is not measured by how much progress you made. Success is measured by a simple binary question. Did I show up? Yes or no? If you showed up and performed your tiny 2-minute habit, you were 100% successful for that day. You get to mark it as a win. This creates a chain of success, a momentum of consistency that becomes a powerful, motivating force in itself. Your job is not to move the mountain. Your job is to simply not break the chain of showing up. Let us close with the image and the wisdom of a river making its long journey to the sea. The river has an ultimate purpose, a clear direction to merge with the great ocean, but it does not take a straight, aggressive path. It does not try to blast its way through a mountain range with brute force. The river embodies the profound wisdom of yielding persistence. When it encounters a great boulder, an immovable obstacle, it does not waste its energy in a futile head-on collision. It gracefully flows around it. When it reaches the edge of a great cliff, it does not resist. It surrenders to gravity and becomes a magnificent waterfall, transforming an obstacle into a thing of beauty and power. When the land is flat and the journey is easy, it slows down, it meanders, it takes its time. It is infinitely patient and infinitely adaptable. And yet, through this gentle, yielding, relentless, forward-moving pressure, over the course of eons, this same soft water carves the Grand Canyon from solid rock. It wears down the sharpest stones into smooth, gentle pebbles. It never, ever stops moving toward the sea. We must learn to become like the river. We must hold our ultimate purpose in our hearts, but we must approach our daily journey with flexibility and patience. We must stop trying to be the dynamite, living our lives in short, violent, and unsustainable bursts of effort. We must instead embrace the quiet, humble, persistent, and utterly unstoppable power of water, which, by its very nature, eventually overcomes all things. We have spoken of the fire of discipline and the relentless persistence of water. We have honored the power of showing up and the quiet strength of consistency, but a life composed only of action, only of forward momentum, only of striving, is a life dangerously out of balance. It becomes a frantic, joyless march toward a horizon that never gets closer. Our modern world has deified the god of busyness. We worship at the altar of the full calendar. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor, a testament to our importance. We have come to believe that a moment not filled with productive activity is a moment wasted. We have forgotten the profound, restorative, and creatively essential power of the pause. We have become afraid of the silence, terrified of the stillness, because in that stillness we might finally have to meet ourselves. This aversion to stillness is a sophisticated form of escapism. Constant activity, the endless scroll of information, the back-to-back meetings, the ever-present podcast in our ears, all of it serves as a powerful anesthetic. It is a way to drown out the quiet and sometimes uncomfortable whispers of our own soul. In the noise, we can avoid the difficult questions. In the rush, we can outrun the feeling of emptiness. In the constant doing, we can distract ourselves from the simple and sometimes intimidating task of being. We have fallen for the great fallacy of our time, the equation of motion with progress. We fill our days with tasks, we rush from one thing to the next, and we collapse at the end of the day feeling productive. But are we truly moving forward, or are we just running in place, very, very fast? We must look to the wisdom of the natural world, a wisdom we have long forgotten. A farmer knows that a field planted with the same crop, season after season, without ever being allowed to lie fallow, will eventually become depleted. The soil will lose its nutrients, its vitality, and will cease to produce anything of value. The field needs time to rest, to recover, to integrate, to allow the unseen microbial world beneath the surface to do its slow, silent, regenerative work. Our minds, our hearts, and our creative spirits are no different. They are fertile fields. A life of constant output, of ceaseless emotional and mental expenditure without time for quiet input and reflection will inevitably lead to burnout. We become the barren field, unable to grow anything new, unable to feel the joy of our own vitality. The conflict that arises from this is felt deep within our being. The body sends its clear signals of exhaustion, the persistent fatigue that sleep doesn't cure, the brain fog that clouds our thinking, the weakened immune system that makes us susceptible to every passing illness. The soul too sends its signals, a creeping sense of meaninglessness, a flatness where joy used to be, the feeling of being a human doing rather than a human being. But these signals are at war with the relentless, internalized voice of the hustle culture. This inner taskmaster, conditioned by a society that prizes productivity above all else, scoffs at our weariness. You must do more, it insists. You are falling behind. Rest is a luxury you cannot afford. Rest is for the weak. And so we push on, ignoring the wisdom of our own bodies, whipping the tired horse of our spirit to run just one more mile. It is time for a radical redefinition of productivity. The core message, the truth that can heal our exhausted world, is this. The pause is not the absence of work. It is a vital part of the work. The moments of rest, of stillness, of doing nothing, are not wasted time. They are, in fact, among the most productive and essential moments of a well-lived life. It is in the quiet spaces that the mind, free from the burden of constant input, finally has the chance to make novel connections. It is in the silence that the whispers of intuition can finally be heard. It is in the stillness that the body heals and the soul integrates our experiences, turning the raw data of our lives into wisdom. The work that happens in the pause is invisible, but it is indispensable. Think of music. A composition that consisted of only notes, played relentlessly without any rests or pauses, would not be music. It would be an intolerable wall of noise. It is the silence between the notes that creates the rhythm, the melody, the tension, and the release. The rests give the notes their meaning and their emotional power. The silence is not the absence of music. It is the framework that allows the music to exist. Think of a great orator. They do not speak in a frantic, unbroken stream. They use the pause. They stop after a powerful statement, allowing the weight of the words to land, to sink into the hearts of the audience. The silence they create is more potent than any word they could speak. The space is what gives the content its impact. Your life is a composition. It needs rests. It needs pauses. It needs the grace of empty space. How do we begin to reclaim this sacred art of the pause in a world that conspires against it? We must become intentional. We must treat rest with the same seriousness that we treat work. The first practice is to formally schedule nothing into your day. Take out your calendar and block out 10 minutes. Label it. Stare out the window, or sit and breathe. By making it an official appointment, you give it legitimacy. You create a fortress around that small piece of time, protecting it from the invading armies of other tasks. It is a non-negotiable meeting with your own soul. The second practice is the aimless walk. So much of our movement is purposeful, from point A to point B. The aimless walk is an act of rebellion. Leave your phone at home, leave your headphones behind, walk with no destination in mind. Your only goal is to be with your body in the world. Notice the feeling of your feet on the pavement. Notice the color of the sky. Notice the shape of the leaves on a tree. Allow your mind to wander where it will. This is not idleness. This is an active form of rest, a way of untethering the mind and allowing it to roam and regenerate. The third practice is to institute a digital sunset. Choose a time each evening, perhaps an hour before you intend to sleep, after which all screens are turned off. No more television, no more computer, no more scrolling through your phone. This creates a buffer of quiet, non-stimulated time. It allows your nervous system to gently wind down from the frantic energy of the day. It is an act of reclaiming the natural rhythm of light and dark, preparing the ground for a deeper and more restorative sleep. Let us close with the most fundamental rhythm of all, the rhythm you carry within you at all times, the inhale and the exhale. Your life can be seen as one long, continuous breath. All the work, the striving, the discipline, the doing, the creating, this is the exhale. It is the active, expressive part of your existence where you are putting your energy out into the world. Our culture tells us to exhale constantly, to push, 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 to never stop. But a life composed only of an exhale is a physical and spiritual impossibility. you would simply collapse. The pause, the rest, the stillness, the quiet contemplation. This is the inhale. It is the receptive, nourishing, and equally essential part of life. It is when we take in inspiration, when we recharge our energy, when we allow ourselves to be filled. A healthy, creative, and sustainable life is not a life of constant exhalation. It is a life of balanced, rhythmic breathing. You exhale, you give, you do, and then you must inhale, you receive, you are. One cannot exist without the other. To deny the pause is to deny the inhale that makes the next action possible. The space between the notes is not the absence of music. It is what allows the music to be heard. The stillness is not the absence of life. It is the moment you can most deeply feel yourself living. We come now to the very architecture of our identity, the framework upon which we have built our sense of self. When you meet someone new, what is the first question you are often asked? What do you do? And how do you answer? You offer them a collection of labels. I am a doctor. I am a teacher. I am an engineer. I am a parent. I am an artist. We present these titles like calling cards, believing they communicate the essence of who we are. We wear our roles and our achievements like a suit of clothes, and over time, we become so accustomed to the fit and feel of this costume that we forget we are the actor inside. We have confused the name tag with the person, the role with the soul. This profound act of mistaken identity is one of the most subtle and powerful prisons of the human mind, and to dismantle it is to step into a radical and exhilarating freedom. The thinking mind, by its very nature, is uncomfortable with formlessness. It needs to define, to categorize, to label, and to place things in neat, understandable boxes. This applies to the external world, and it applies even more forcefully to our own sense of self. The ego, the constructed I we have spoken of, is the mind's attempt to create a solid, definable object out of the vast, formless mystery of our own consciousness. It is a conceptual self. It takes our fleeting experiences, our temporary roles, our shifting beliefs, and it freezes them into a static identity. This gives us something solid to grasp onto, a story to tell ourselves and others about who we are. But this strategy, while useful for navigating the social world, is fraught with peril. Because these labels our job, our relationship status, our wealth, our social standing are all external and inherently temporary, our sense of self becomes incredibly fragile. Our identity is contingent upon circumstances we cannot ultimately control. If your entire sense of self is built upon the label successful CEO, what happens when the company fails or when you retire? The loss is not just a loss of a job, it is a terrifying disintegration of your very identity. If your primary identity is devoted mother, what happens when your children grow up and leave home, no longer needing your constant care? The empty nest becomes an empty self. When a label we have fused with is threatened or removed, it triggers a profound existential crisis. We are left staring into a void, asking the terrifying question, without that label, who am I? The internal conflict is between our deep need for the safety and certainty that these labels seem to provide, and the deep, often unconscious, fear of this very void. We cling to our roles and our titles because we are afraid of the emptiness we might find if we were to let them go. Society reinforces this clinging at every turn. We are rewarded for our achievements, praised for our roles, and categorized for ease of interaction. We willingly participate in the construction of our own cages because the alternative, the boundless, undefined freedom of our true nature can feel like a terrifying emptiness to the mind that is addicted to form. Here, we must introduce a truth that is both simple and world-altering. The core message is this: you are not your job. You are not your accomplishments. You are not your failures. You are not your body. You are not your thoughts. You are not the story you tell about your life. These are all things that you have, or that you experience. They are not what you are. Before all of these labels, beneath all of these forms, there is a fundamental, unchanging, and ever-present sense of pure being. It is the simple, silent background awareness of I am, not I am this, or I am that. Just the simple, luminous fact of existence itself. This is the sky we spoke of earlier. This is the vast, formless consciousness that was present when you were a child, that is present now as you listen to these words, and that will be present through all the changing seasons of your life. To awaken to this deeper identity is to find a place of absolute security that can never be threatened by the loss of any external role or title. The labels we carry are not who we are. They are simply costumes we wear to play our various roles in the drama of life. And there is nothing wrong with the costumes. It is highly functional and appropriate to wear the doctor costume when you are in the hospital, or the parent costume when you are with your children. They allow you to perform your necessary functions in the world. The problem arises only when you forget that you are the actor and begin to believe you are the costume. The goal is not to abandon your roles, but to play them with excellence and commitment, while a part of you remains rooted in the deeper knowledge that you are the formless awareness that is animating the role. You can then wear your titles lightly, like a loose garment, rather than a second skin fused to your soul. How do we practice this profound act of disidentification? We begin with the ancient practice of self-inquiry. Find a quiet space. Ask yourself the question, who am I? And then, with a kind of gentle skepticism, discard every answer that the mind provides. The mind might offer, I am John. And you can ask, is that true? Or is that just a name, a sound given to me? Who is the one who is aware of this name? The mind might say, I am a lawyer. You can ask, is that who I am? Or is that a function I perform, a role I play? Who was I before I became a lawyer? Who will I be after I retire? Continue this process. Am I my body? No, for I am aware of my body, and the body is constantly changing. Am I my thoughts? No, for I am aware of my thoughts, and they come and go like clouds. You keep letting go of every label, every concept, every story, until you are left with the only thing that cannot be denied, the silent, spacious, ever-present awareness that is asking the question. Rest in that awareness. That is your true home. A second practice is to consciously engage in activities that have no connection to your primary social and professional identities. Do something for no other reason than the pure, intrinsic joy of the activity itself. If you are a high-powered executive, spend an afternoon painting watercolors with no intention of creating a masterpiece. If you are a serious academic, spend an evening dancing wildly in your living room. These purposeless activities reconnect us with the playful, spontaneous, and formless part of our being that exists outside of our useful social functions. It is a way of reminding ourselves that our worth is not tied to our utility. Let us close with the image of a great sculptor and a block of marble. Your true nature is like a vast, uncarved block of stone full of infinite, formless potential. Life, with its experiences, its education, and its social conditioning, acts as the sculptor. It comes with its hammer and chisel and begins to chip away at the stone. A piece flies off, and a label is created. This is the child chip, it says. Another is chiseled away. This is the student chip. More and more pieces are removed, creating a growing pile of labels on the studio floor. The employee chip, the spouse in, the success chip, the failure chip. The great mistake of our lives is that we crawl down from the pedestal and begin to identify with the pile of discarded marble chips on the floor. We arrange them, we polish them, we cling to them, and we say, this is me, this is my story. But you are not the debris. You are not the labels that have been chipped away. Your true self is the magnificent, essential, and timeless form that is being revealed as the excess stone is removed. The spiritual journey is not a process of adding more and more labels to the pile. It is a process of subtraction, of letting go of all that is not essential, until the true and beautiful form of your being stands revealed in its silent, powerful, and unadorned dignity. We have journeyed through many landscapes of the soul. We have honored the immense power of surrender, acceptance, and letting go. We have also revered the sacred fire of discipline, persistence, and unwavering action. Now, as we near the end of our exploration, we arrive at the most crucial and practical question of all. How do we live this? In the messy, unpredictable, and often confusing reality of daily life, how do we know when to apply force and when to yield? When do we accept what is, and when do we strive to change what is? The rational mind, with its love for clear, unambiguous rules, may feel a sense of confusion, even contradiction. It wants a simple formula. If this happens, do that. But life is not a simple equation to be solved. It is a dance to be danced. And the highest wisdom lies not in choosing one side of the paradox over the other, but in learning to move gracefully between the two. The logical mind, the part of us that loves plans and certainties, operates in a binary world of either or. It wants to know if it should be the unyielding mountain or the flowing river. But this is the trap of a limited perspective. Life itself is not binary. It is a fluid, dynamic, and seamless whole. To navigate it wisely, we must learn to listen to a deeper, more holistic intelligence that resides within human intelligence that speaks not in the loud, linear language of logic, but in the quiet, subtle whispers of intuition and the felt sense of the body. This deeper wisdom does not offer a fixed rule book. Instead, it offers a quality of discernment, the ability to feel the unique texture of each moment and to respond in the most appropriate and harmonious way. Sometimes, a situation calls for the firmness of our roots, for the unwavering discipline to hold our ground. At other times, the same situation calls for the flexibility of our branches, for the wisdom to bend with the wind so that we do not break. The art of living is not in knowing the rules. It is in cultivating the sensitivity to know which response is needed now. Without this sensitivity, we can become paralyzed by the paradox. We stand at a crossroads, frozen by a debilitating internal debate. Am I accepting a toxic situation, or am I wisely practicing surrender? Am I being disciplined, or am I being a rigid perfectionist? Am I resting because my body needs it, or am I just being lazy? This state of analytical paralysis is a kind of hell where we do nothing for fear of doing the wrong thing. We must understand that the answer to these questions is not found in more thinking. It is found in a different way of knowing. It is found in the dance. The most perfect model for this dance is the one we have carried with us from the very beginning, the rhythm of the breath. Your breath is a continuous, effortless cycle of action and release. The exhale is effort. It is the active, expressive phase of putting your energy out into the world. The inhale is surrender. It is the receptive, passive phase of taking in, of receiving, of allowing yourself to be filled. You do not have to choose between the two. You must have both to live. A life of all effort is a life of burnout. A life of all surrender is a life of stagnation. The art of a vibrant existence is to make this rhythm conscious, to honor both the exhale of doing and the inhale of being. We must learn to bring this rhythmic cycle into all of our endeavors. We act with full commitment. We pour our energy into the task. We exhale our effort into the world. And then, crucially, we consciously and deliberately inhale. We let go. We release the outcome. We surrender the fruits of our action. This is not a one-time choice of a life philosophy. It is a moment-to-moment practice of rhythmic living. How do we practice this dance in our daily lives? We can begin by making the cycle explicit. For any task, from writing an important report to having a difficult conversation, you can consciously define the two phases. First, the phase of effort. For a set period, give the task your absolute, undivided, focused attention. Be the persistent water. Be the disciplined fire. Pour yourself into it completely. Then, when the time is up or the task is done, you must consciously initiate the phase of surrender. Step away. Take 3 deep, cleansing breaths. Mentally or verbally release the work. Say to yourself, "My work here is done. The outcome is not in my hands. I let it go." This practice prevents the residue of effort from turning into the poison of worry. It makes the dance a deliberate, repeatable habit. We can also learn to use our feelings of frustration and blockage as a sacred signal. When you find yourself pushing against a problem with immense effort and making zero progress, when you feel like you are banging your head against a brick wall, this is not a sign that you need to try harder. This is a clear message from your deeper intelligence that it is time to switch modes. It is time to stop pushing. It is time to surrender. The wisest action you can take at this moment is to do nothing related to the problem. Go for a walk, listen to music, sleep on it. You must release your conscious mind's frantic grip on the problem and allow the vast, powerful processing of your unconscious to take over. How many times has the solution to a vexing problem appeared, as if by magic, when you were in the shower or doing something completely unrelated? This is not magic. This is the fruit of surrender. It is allowing a deeper part of you to work after the forceful ego has finally given up. Let us close with the perfect metaphor for this dynamic integration of effort and surrender. The surfer on the ocean. The surfer sits on their board, floating, bobbing with the rhythm of the sea. They are in a state of watchful waiting, of quiet observation. They are surrendered to the ocean's vastness. This is the inhale. Then, their eyes spot a promising swell on the horizon. The mode must shift instantly and completely. They turn their board toward the shore and begin to paddle with a furious, focused, all-out burst of intense effort. There is nothing passive about this phase. It is pure, disciplined, masculine action. They must strain with every muscle to match the speed of the approaching wave. If they are lazy here, if they do not give their absolute all, the wave will pass them by. This is the exhale. Then, in a single breathtaking moment, the dance shifts again. As the wave catches them and begins to lift the board, they must pop up to their feet and immediately, totally surrender to the power that is now carrying them. They are no longer in control. They do not steer the wave. They cannot command the ocean. Their role now is one of exquisite, intuitive, responsive partnership. They shift their weight subtly. They adjust their balance. They feel the movement of the water beneath them, and they dance with it. They are in a state of pure flow, a perfect, sublime union of action and surrender, of effort and release. They are one with the wave. This is the art we are here to learn. Our lives are the ocean, presenting us with endless waves of opportunity and challenge. The wisdom lies in knowing when to paddle with all your might and when to stand up, let go, and gracefully ride the incredible power that is carrying you. We have come to the end of our long journey through the inner landscapes, dismantling the habits of the anxious mind and the defenses of the fearful ego. We have learned to unclench the fist, to embrace imperfection, to dance with the rhythm of effort and surrender. But beneath all of these layers, beneath every fear and every compulsion to control, lies one single foundational wound. It is the primal fear that drives all others. It is the deep, cellular, and often unconscious belief that we are alone, that we are separate, that it is us against a vast, indifferent, and chaotic universe. It is this fundamental lack of trust in life itself that compels us to build our fortresses, to hoard our resources, and to live in a state of perpetual, low-grade anxiety. To find a peace that is truly unshakable, we must heal this final, deepest wound. We must learn to return to a state of absolute trust. The ego's primary function, its master story, is the story of separation. It draws a thick, black line between me, in here, and the world, out there. It tells us we are a fragile, isolated entity, a lonely island in a vast and often hostile sea. This story creates a fundamental sense of alienation, a defensive posture towards life. We feel we must protect ourselves, that we must outsmart the world, that we must manage and control our circumstances, because if we do not, the indifferent chaos of the universe will surely crush us. But this story, as compelling as it feels, is an illusion. It is the great lie that is the source of all our suffering. Look around you. Look at your own hand. The atoms that constitute your body were not created by you. They were forged in the fiery hearts of stars that died billions of years ago. The air that you are breathing into your lungs at this very moment is a gift from the trees and the phytoplankton of the ocean, beings with whom you are engaged in a constant, intimate, life-giving exchange. The food that nourishes you is a product of the sun, the soil, the Rainer collaboration of cosmic forces. You are not a separate entity that has been dropped into the universe. You are a feature of the universe. You are not an island. You are a wave in the ocean of existence, the intelligence that wheels the galaxies in their silent, perfect dance, the intelligence that guides a tiny seed to grow into a magnificent redwood tree, the intelligence that knows how to heal a cut on your finger without any conscious instruction from you. That same incomprehensible intelligence is not separate from you. It is flowing through you at this very moment. It is beating your heart. It is digesting your food. It is breathing your breath. You are a living, breathing expression of the creative genius of the cosmos. The ultimate internal conflict, then, is between the small, frightened ego self and the vast, knowing soul self. The ego, believing the story of separation, is terrified. It sees life as an endless series of problems to be solved, threats to be neutralized, and resources to be acquired. It trusts nothing and no one. It spends its entire existence paddling frantically against the current, convinced it is about to go over a waterfall. But your deeper self, the soul, the part of you that knows it is a wave in the ocean, has a completely different desire. It yearns to relax. It yearns to let go of the oars. It knows that the current of the river is trustworthy, that it is flowing with purpose and wisdom. The conflict is between the ego's frantic, fearful paddling and the soul's deep, quiet longing to simply float. The final and most profound act of surrender, therefore, is to give in to this longing. It is to cultivate absolute trust. This is not the surrender of a specific outcome, but the surrender of the entire, exhausting project of being the sole, separate manager of your life. It is the release of the belief that you are in charge, and the opening to the possibility that you are being guided, held, and supported by an intelligence far vaster and wiser than your own conceptual mind. This is not an invitation to fatalism or passivity. It is an invitation to partnership. It is the shift from being the terrified rower fighting the river to becoming the skilled sailor who trusts the wind. You must still do your part. You must still raise your sails. You must act with discipline, presence, and integrity. You must still steer your rudder. You must make wise, conscious choices. But you learn to trust that the great wind of life, the Tao, the universal intelligence, will provide the power and will guide you toward your true destination. You learn to co-create with life rather than fighting against it. How can we possibly cultivate such a profound trust in a world that often seems so chaotic and dangerous? We must begin by seeking out the evidence of this benevolent intelligence. The first practice is to immerse yourself in the medicine of nature. Go somewhere far from the noise of humanity and look up at the night sky. Witness the silent, orderly majesty of the stars and the galaxies. Contemplate the fact that this immense, intricate cosmic dance has been unfolding perfectly for billions of years without any help from you. Sit by the ocean and feel the ceaseless, faithful rhythm of the tides, governed by forces you cannot see. Walk in an ancient forest and feel the deep, interconnected peace of an ecosystem that has been self-regulating for centuries. In the face of this vastness, this intelligence, this profound peace, your own personal anxieties and problems begin to shrink to their proper, insignificant size. You remember that you are part of something immense, ancient, and deeply wise. The second practice is to begin each day with an act of conscious surrender. Before you reach for your phone, before your mind begins its frantic planning, take a single minute to sit in silence. Place your hand on your heart. Feel its steady, faithful beata rhythm you did not create and do not sustain. And in that silence, offer a simple intention of trust. It could be a prayer. It could be a simple statement. Today, I choose to trust the process of my life. I will do my part, and I trust that I am being held and guided. I release the need to control everything. This simple act sets the energetic tone for your entire day, shifting you from a posture of fear to a posture of faith. Let us close with the final image of a single leaf on a great river. The leaf has fallen from its branch and now rests upon the surface of the water. The river is the flow of life, the universal intelligence. An ego-driven leaf would be in a state of absolute panic. It would believe that its survival depended on its own efforts. It would try to paddle with its edges, to steer itself away from rocks, to control its destiny. It would be filled with constant questions and fears. Where am I going? Is this the right way? What if I get stuck? Its journey would be one of endless, exhausting struggle. But the wise leaf, the surrendered leaf, understands its nature. A leaf's job is not to steer. A leaf's job is to be a leaf, to be light, to be open, to be receptive. It gives itself over completely to the current, trusting in the wisdom of the river. It does not need a map, for the river is its map. It does not need a destination, for the river is its destination. The river carries it gracefully around the great stones, through the turbulent rapids, and across the still, quiet pools. And the leaf trusts, with a deep, silent knowing, that this great river is inevitably, unfailingly, and lovingly carrying it home to the vast, boundless ocean of its source. This is the final peace. It is the peace that comes from letting go of the fiction that you are in charge and awakening to the sublime reality that you are, and always have been, perfectly and eternally held. We began this journey together with a simple image, the clenched fist, straining to hold a handful of water, only to feel it slip away, leaving an empty, aching palm. It was a posture of struggle, of force, and of a deep fear of loss. After all our time together, after exploring the landscapes of the mind, the heart, and the soul, we return, at last, to the hand. But it is changed. It is no longer a fist. Through this shared inner work, it has learned the forgotten wisdom of release. It has unfurled, finger by finger, into an open palm. It has become a cup, held out not to grasp, but to receive. Sometimes the river of life will fill it with cool, clear water. Sometimes it will place within it a rough, instructive stone. And sometimes it will be empty. And through it all, the hand can now remain as it is, open, at peace, and ready for what comes. This opening of the hand is the heart of everything we have explored. The frantic chase for a happiness that cannot be hunted, the struggle for a sleep that cannot be forced, the clinging to a love that must be free, the demand for a perfection that does not exist. All these were symptoms of the clenched fist. We have since learned that true strength is not the force of the explosion, but the persistence of the water. We have learned that true peace is not the absence of clouds, but the realization that we are the sky. We have learned that the highest form of discipline is an act of self-love, and the deepest form of love is an act of granting freedom. This path does not lead to a weak and passive life. On the contrary, it leads to a more potent, more graceful, and more resilient power. It is the power to finally stop fighting unwinnable wars. It is the wisdom to know what is yours to control and what is not. You cannot control the winds of fortune, but you can, and you must, learn to set the sail of your own inner state. You cannot command the waves of life, but you can learn to surf them with courage and skill. This is not an abdication of your power. It is the claiming of the only power you have ever truly had, the power to choose your response, the power to govern your own mind, the power to live from a place of trust instead of fear. All the friction you have ever felt, all the exhaustion, all the quiet desperation, it was not born from the harshness of the world. It was born from your resistance to it. The great struggle of your life was never with life itself. The struggle was with the way you chose to hold it. Now, open your hand.